Say one.
Continuation of the continuation.
Well, I'll ask it out loud this time.
And so, kind of with every meeting, even though we can reconvene it, you raise your hand to pray.
Well, I can, but I was raising my hand to be.
Yeah, we
say what I got to say.
Let's go talk to the Lord. We talk.
Dear Lord Jesus, we thank you once again for giving us an opportunity to come forward and do the things of Fayetteville for the citizens of Fayetteville. Lord, as we go through our zero tax increase agenda, we also ask you to take care of us, that we will continue to make the right decisions for the citizens. We do understand the hardships that everyone is going through. Father, also as we go through this hot period, we ask you to take care of seniors and children and all of us as we navigate ourselves through this extreme heat, that no one will be sick, that our first responders won't have to take any fatal type calls, that everybody can be taken care of. We thank you so much for so many things. Anything that the enemy tries to bring upon us, we ask you to cut the head of the enemy off and let us stomp him up under our feet. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Stop. Amen.
Oh.
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, before we go to Councilor here, he's been ready since yesterday to ask this. So, Councilor, we, as I understand you left it yesterday for a continuation today. Wanted to pick up, just recap before we jump into the heart of it.
Come here.
It hard
I hear what you
for
said.
a couple hours if it
I
can,
know something
and try to
crazy.
cover as much ground as we can. So we can ask staff and us to kind of, if there's a question that comes up, let's kind of get a summarized version of the answer if we can. Just to keep us moving. I know at the beginning of yesterday's meeting, there was consensus action taken for, I don't remember the vote count, Jennifer can share that, of no
6
tax
vote.
increase. Okay, you have a vote count for that,
So let me pull that
6 to 4.
6
set
votes.
of minutes up. We have so many.
Some minds changed.
Gotta ask for reconsideration. That's
Yes,
where I'm going.
consensus, Councilmember Green and McMillan were in opposition though.
All right, so it's 8 to 2. All right, so it passed, which helped frame our conversation. So he says his vote is still about.
I didn't change it. I voted against it.
Oh, okay, so 7 to 3. All right, either way, it motion carried, and that framed the direction of discussion. It was counterproductive for us to, unless something else was reintroduced and re-voted on, to change that direction. So I want to start with that framework. So understand that we've got to get the specifics to making it balanced, but the direction that the consensus motion 7 to 3 said was that there was favorability for no tax increase versus tax. So I think we got steered back into that yesterday. But now, as we start today where you left it, I think there are some proposals to help get us there. And so staff will be working through that. With that, I think as we have now dug our way through savings and mostly CIP, some operational scenarios that today we'll try to get towards our parking lot and see things that are covered there. In addition to that conversation, as we do it, as we categorize it into the buckets, important to know that just went back through not only our strategic planning, but some of the council member requests that have come in over the last 6 months where council has agreed to do things to make sure that it had budget to make it realistic. You know, we're a year after some of the initiatives we had that from last budget cycle that you can see how quick a year goes by. We're looking at our permit process now. Fast forward a year later, and we're still dealing with that. But so just had a synopsis of it. We can talk about it and move forward. But Councilmember here, you've been waiting patiently since yesterday.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mayor. As we ended the day on yesterday, we had spoken, or generally spoken, on the number of items. It was just popping up right at the end. But as you stated, we left the meeting with the understanding of a zero tax increase, and that staff would bring to us, the staff would bring to us today a tally, I was thinking, showing that with what other options could be done, which I assume that this is it. But the only thing that I'm looking for this morning that I don't quite see it is when I first saw this, I said, oh, great. I thought that it was already, I said, okay, they did it. But what we got was this. And for clarity, are these two sheets that we have balancing, additional balancing option and general fund budget comparisons, ... is that, are these for zero tax increase and these are the options if you want to bring these in?
And
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. And options to bring these in, because I'm still waiting to hear this morning the zero tax piece, balance sheet, or just like you have it in the book here.
Answer the question there.
yes, sir.
So if I could orient you to the couple of sheets that you have.
Yes.
The first sheet that says general fund budget comparison with requested but not recommended. This is just for informational purposes. Yesterday, the question was how much did departments cut, or specifically how much did the manager's office cut from its request that was not funded. So what we did is we went ahead and gave you that instead of you trying to fish it out of your book. We did a schedule for you that showed where departments cut, how much we were taking out of each department's current services, as well as their expanded service request and what that looks like. So we just wanted to give you that for comparative purposes because the question was asked yesterday and to make it easier for you to read. So to your question, Councilman Hare, as we went back through, and the discussion yesterday was on the additional penny list, and the council asked for some options to doing that. We would still recommend the additional penny list if the council doesn't want to do zero. If the council wants to do 0% tax increase, that list still remains intact. That's where we would recommend taking it from after consultation with departments. And for the public safety items, we work with the chiefs to allow them to reallocate funding within their budget and reprioritize to ensure things like the rent payment that you saw on there gets paid, that the maintenance on the camera gets paid. We just have to reprioritize some of the stuff. If council didn't like that list or didn't want to do that list, then we gave you some other options. And that's what.
Can I interrupt you?
Yes, sir.
Once again, a very clear question. I just want you to speak just for me, maybe not for anyone else. The zero tax option, period. Just answer that question for me first. And if there are additional options that can be added to the zero tax because of what we have done over here on this board as far as savings or funding that we found, that's the response that I want first, and not the 1 cent.
And that's what I would like to do.
Because you kept putting in the 1 cent.
Well, what I'm saying, Councilman, is if you don't want to do the tax increase, the list
We've already established. He's just framing it out. That's all. Framing it out.
to get to no tax increase, the manager's recommended budget, but we would recommend that the list we gave you yesterday as the 1 cent tax increase list, that's where you would cut current services. Okay. Alternatively, if you didn't want to do that list, well, we provided for your additional balancing options, which we believe can be had. This isn't in addition to, or it can be. Council can take that entire 1 penny list from yesterday and this entire list. Some of them duplicate, so we'd have to work that out. But what we suggested you could reduce downtown events by half, meaning that we would course, the reliance on sponsorships for Juneteenth and the New Year's Eve. We would look at the police technology and ask the police chief to rebalance his technology budget and figure out how to fit what the priority technologies are in, whether that's cameras or other tools. We would look at parking revenue. We would suggest increasing parking rates and hours. We work with our consultant and work with our parking management company. That's about half of the subsidy that's coming from the general fund. We would look at increasing transit revenue by a quarter per ride, or 20% across the other functions. We would look at, we had a council discretionary reserve to help you with your parking lot. We would liquidate that and make that 500,000. We would do away with the citizen survey, the resident survey, and then we would suggest that we could increase. It'll be tough, and we'll have to hold back hiring. But we think we could increase vacancy savings by 600,000. That gets you about 1.9 million, 195. The difference would still then come off the list from the 1 penny. About 400,000, we would go back and say, okay, departments, we're gonna still have to cut this, but you're gonna have to work with it. And we would probably go ahead and take those out of the bigger departments because the smaller departments would have a more of a challenge because they're mostly personnel. That's the top table. And this is a suggestion to your point, Councilman Hare. How do you get to a balanced budget? The next item is the additional balancing option. So we took the whiteboard that's up here and we tuned up the numbers to make them, to fit them in, okay? Or to make them exactly. So the closed projects number, you had 450,000. That is, that was the new money that was reallocated from other projects to the makerspace for the parking. The elimination of the makerspace in total would get you an additional 1.2, so that would be the 165. If you reduce the commitment to Stadium View to 3 million, then that will save you $2.7 million of fund balance. Okay, and if you have an additional use of fund balance down to your 12% policy of about $1 million. The caveat is if you take the million in estimated vacancy savings and the $1 million of estimated fund balance, then we risk running it below our 12% goal and possibly down to 10%. Until we get to the end of the year, we don't know that.
Did we, council, do a consensus on yesterday, Councilmember Hondros, to eliminate the 1.2 makerspace? Did we have what was that?
We talked about it.
Okay.
Before we get there,
That's all it's not.
one is, let's make a consensus on the recommended cut list after giving out this. So that we don't have to keep referring back. So you all went, we started going out on this when I was here. You know, it had the BLET.
Yeah, we excluded.
Okay, right. So show of hands, who wants to not accept that list of recommendations for cuts?
And sir, that was not a recommendation. That
Well, it was
was,
just an idea, but
it was what you get for 1 penny. It was the 1 penny increase, including all of those things that the department said. If we have to cut, if the department said, if we can't get all of our items in a 10-pound bag, this falls out the top and we would rather do it out those. And so it wasn't a recommended cut.
so let me ask you another way. If the 1% tax is not agreed upon, do those items were the things that fell out the 10-pound bag?
They would fall out. And what Jeff just showed you is there's a way
To alternatively address it.
to keep those.
Right, but what I want to do before we get to this, because there's an option A and there's an option B. I wanted to see if there was support or interest in continuing to talk about option A, which was the list that was presented yesterday. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, Mayor. So yesterday when we ended, we were, like you said in the beginning of the meeting, we began to go over the 1 and 2 cent list. When we left, we agreed that we were going to resume because we finished the 1 cent. And we agreed as a council that we were going to
Going
finish
over the list.
the 2 cent list. I understand what you're saying as far as we came in, but when we came in, we didn't have this information. And so as we started talking about this information, we saw the needs of these departments. I know I personally felt it'd be fiscally irresponsible to completely ignore them with the critical services that we're looking at. So my piece was to continue what we said we were gonna do. And then we could probably take another evaluation because these.
Well, again, right, as he
They're
said,
critical.
that was just the first recommendation. He came in today with a new recommendation.
Right, based on the
Tomorrow
one
can
cent.
be a 3 or a 4, right? There's a number of ways to get to it. But I think the core of it is to keep us from going back is the consensus of the board was that we were looking for a no tax increase option, which the things on that paper, according to what the manager just said, if you don't add the penny or the 2 pennies, then they come off. So
Exactly.
the question is now, as we give guidance to them, is there support for those things coming off? So that's the consensus I was about to ask.
So,
I
but
would reconsider adding a tax or 2 because we've already talked about it.
well, my question, my piece was, we said as a council that we were gonna resume. So are we saying that we're not gonna do what we say we were gonna do?
Well,
Because these,
in order to resume, you have to go against what you've already voted on. Did y'all take a?
no, we did that all day yesterday.
Yeah.
We did that all day yesterday. So
Resume
if
the meeting or
there's
resume the discussion of where you.
resume the,
Where we left off.
where we left off.
Where we left off, where we were talking about what we wasn't gonna get with the 1 cent.
Okay.
Right, and we
So where
said when we
y'all
came
at
in
on that?
today, we would start with the 2 cent.
Okay, so.
That's what we said.
All right,
yesterday.
so you finished the list. So
1 cent. And we said we were gonna go to the 2 cent today. That's what.
2 cent the parking lot.
Okay.
That's what we said.
All right, so we can start.
So the 2 cent, I'm assuming what you're referring to is yesterday you talked about the 1 penny for the penny that was operations.
Right. and
The
the
2
penny for-
cents is the capital list
penny for the capital.
from yesterday, which is this page right here. That says the additional pennies for capital allocation.
All right. Now, Jeff, can you answer this question? All of these are projected costs, right? Because they haven't happened yet, right? So you're projecting out the next 12 months worth of expenses in your budget, right?
Yes, sir.
And based on how you do that, you make it balance, depending on how much revenue you need, how much expenses you can get. Is it fair to say that, just as you did with, payroll, OCS, we projected it at 2 million, but it actually may have been 300,000? Or another department, not picking on OCS at all, just saying that you project something at $1 million and it may come in at 900,000. That's fair to say that happens once you adjust the actual.
Not normally a CIP.
I'm not talking about just overall.
Well, I'm just talking about this list.
Yeah, but my question is bigger picture.
It
Operations, not
It
talking about
can,
budget.
yes.
Okay, so your projections determine the balance. Is that fair to say?
Correct.
Okay, but I project that we're gonna get $12 million in revenue. I don't know that, 'cause I don't have a crystal ball. And I project we're gonna, in that same projection, have $12 million worth of expenses, so we balance.
Correct.
So you could therefore say, I project we're gonna have 11 million in revenue and 11 million in expenses and still balance. Is that fair?
Yes.
All right.
Well, why would you do that?
Well, because what we're seeing is that the estimates sometimes have overages in it, right? And it makes us find other options, which is what we've been spending all this time doing, to say that in order for it to balance, you've got to cut these things that we put on list 1 or add a penny. When you also have a lever, because it's about levers, right? That you don't know the exact number. So you've done it before. You said that, hey, what I did was took a more aggressive projection on payroll, for instance, right? In order to give us more bandwidth. So that's a lever that you use anyway. So if a department, because you don't know, is projected to have 5 million, then if we're off 500,000, you can say, well, it's projected to have 4.5 million and the expenses have to line up.
Well, this is the thing though, Mayor, that I want to say, with the revenue projections are a whole separate entity. We cannot project revenues on ad valorem taxes more than our tax collection rate. There's already that. So if the county collects 97.5%, and that's the most that we can budget for revenue. We go through and we tell you how much of our budget is from ad valorem taxes, we tell you how much is going to be from fees, and those are all projections. We have pushed our revenue. I've never seen that we have said that we're going to recommend less revenue. We're always pushing our revenue, and and in many ways we've told you we're betting against ourselves. Some of you were not on council 2 years ago, 3 years ago. We said we're going to bet against ourselves for almost $20 million. That was painful. What that means is that when positions come vacant, we don't fill them, and we go month to month and make sure that we're able to meet those projections. The work that the council has done over the last couple of days is exactly the type of work that the staff also does. And there's no gaming of this system. And the best way to look at it is that you've had this year, you had a clean audit, again. You had your financial advisor, Mr. Cheatwood, come in and tell you that you're a well-run organization.
Start at the beginning of something, we gotta cut the commentary.
I got it. Well, what I'm saying is that if you can rely on nothing else, you can rely on these numbers.
Listen, so I get
so-
that, that's fair, right?
Yes.
And I think that once we give the guidelines, what we
Appreciate
are
it.
trying to
Absolutely.
communicate is be clear from the board about the things that are on the chopping block and the things that are not.
Right.
You know what leverage you have. So I think it is better if the professional staff finds a way to fit it within the box that we give
We
you.
appreciate that.
But coming back with things and having us repeat about the direction of it, I think the consensus was to not increase taxes. You see, there's an abundance of effort going toward that, and the board is there right now. So the continuation of talking about added taxes is going contrary to that. It's been a lot of time. It's not your fault. I'm just saying, that's why I want to clear it. But we left it off yesterday with where you said
Right.
2 cents. Okay,
It's
so
too
we'll
critical
run
not
through
to,
that list.
to
I'm with it. So let's go.
ignore it.
Who has the 2 cents?
So this, we gave you yesterday, it's this list marked additional 2 pennies. So I'll do that to you guys and take notes.
Okay, so who wants to address anything that's on the 2 cent list? Fleet replacement, building maintenance, infrastructure, life recycle, parking lot maintenance, print shop, and equipment.
What are you looking at?
So who's the department leader for this?
Say again?
But
Found that one.
we can't spend that kind of time and call it every
Is this just
department.
from today?
So if it's something that we've got an interest in and you got support for it, we'll take it off on this.
Okay.
That getting each department to come up and figure out why they need it or why they don't put them in a bad way because they've asked for everything. So
Can I
it's at the point now because.
I don't have this one.
That's a tough spot.
All right, the next list is CCTV and fire stations and public safety radios.
I'm sorry,
Chief,
Mayor Pro Tem. I see some council members saying they don't have what they need.
We don't, I want to write on mine,
Chief.
so, I mean,
public radio.
we don't.
I know we're not gonna do each one, but
I think so. I just want to make sure Malika has one too. Was it from yesterday or today?
Yeah, it was yesterday.
Oh, well, I got
Yesterday's package of
yesterday.
paper.
Yep. Sean said he thought it was yesterday.
Yeah, no, it was from yesterday.
Today is right.
Oh, there it is. Yep, got it.
Does anybody need one?
All right, we're gonna fund 45 man.
I got it.
Yeah, so I don't know where y'all left it.
yeah, we're gonna, public safety, Chief is gonna just briefly insert.
Council first,
We're not gonna do each one. We only have 2 more sections.
Right.
I just wanted him
I
to.
understand that, but what I'm saying is, we're still putting them in between this conversation, right? 'Cause they
So you saying-
recommended- We did it yesterday, and I think, I mean, it's tough.
Right.
Right?
I
They
was-
want
I was-
all of it,
Okay. Is it tough for you, Chief?
but it's not fair to have Chief do it and not have Michael Gibson do it and not have.
Michael Gibson did it yesterday. We
That's
are,
the point.
no, I got you. Okay, well, let's, go ahead. I'm sorry. these are some
You don't have to
critical.
be sorry.
Well,
You need to understand what you need to
Right,
understand.
these are some really critical issues.
Right.
We're talking about stopping, budget cuts on the backing of maintenance. We're
But
talking
we
about,
didn't recommend this.
we're talking,
They did.
no, what I'm saying is they recommended that we keep it. We're gonna
If
vote,
you add 2 cents.
we're gonna vote to not keep it. And I'm saying, what is gonna be the results of us not voting to keep it?
That's not a completely true statement, because this was just one option if you didn't add the 2 pennies, okay, of things to cut. They came back with a whole nother scenario today to say, instead of these things, you can also consider these things. That can go on all day. You've got.
Yeah, I got what you're saying. I'm just saying, when we look at these lists that we were just given yesterday, and we look at them and we see what not increasing would do,
Okay.
it is just, in my opinion,
But I
fiscally
think we'll find a
irresponsible.
way to do it, but you can go ahead.
Okay, if we can find a way to do it and keep these services.
Well, that's why I was gonna take the vote initially, to say, is there a consensus of the board to keep these things? Okay.
So when you say these things, you're responding to the 1 cent
The
that we're
first
talking
part of the
about?
list and the second part of it, so that's the 1 and the 2 cents.
Okay,
So what that does then is, if we don't increase taxes, it sends a message to them to go find other things, because these things we're not willing to cut. We're in agreement that these aren't too important to cut.
okay.
The
Well,
consensus of the board prevents you from having to have to, they're not making a case that this is important, not from my perspective. It's just a matter of how we're gonna pay for it, which is their job.
right,
So that's why I was gonna take the vote. I support everything on here.
okay. And on the both, 1 and 2 cent list.
1 and 2,
Okay.
I do not want to cut any of them, nor orchard. That's what I was gonna ask the board, if they had any consensus opinion. Yes, sir.
If I may, and I appreciate being recognized, I would appreciate hearing the impacts. This is Councilmember Ferguson, and I would rather make an informed decision. You being on the board for 10 years, that you may be able to look at this list and maybe make an assessment of what the impacts would be. For me, it helps to hear, especially from the staff who are most impacted, what the costs of our decisions would be. And I'm also one that may reconsider a previous position based on presentation of more pertinent facts.
But what I'll say today is that we're not gonna have time to do that for everything on this list. It is, because it's incumbent upon us to inform ourselves and study this stuff. Now, we can do some of that, but what I'm saying is we got way too much to cover to do this line by line.
If you could facilitate in a way that
Yes, sir.
allows us to get that information, I'd
All right,
appreciate
so
it.
which items would you like to hear, Councilman Ferguson? We'll do that. But like I said, I think
Well, I mean,
if your position is to convince people that this is important, we can take a consensus to do that. But if it is to learn more information, I think that is what small group meetings are.
yeah, well, it's for both, and that's what we did yesterday all day, and it gave us a better,
Perspective.
what he was just saying, and that's why some folk have,
Well,
some of-
preparation is not this big right here.
no, I'm not saying preparation. I'm saying we were just given these when we walked in yesterday.
Okay.
So we had the
You
opportunity
have
to
the floor-
hear.
You have floor for questions, but I don't know if there's gonna be a time to support each department coming up.
Yeah, well, we're already at 3 and
Okay.
it ain't but 2 more
You got the
sections.
floor.
There's only 2 more sections. I'm already stressing that I think we need to do the increase of a 2 cent increase. And I know I'm not trying to go backwards, but a 2 cent increase would only increase at a $300,000 property, $5 a month. And I think that's a very low piece for what we'll be receiving back. But Chief, I just called Chief up and you said, no, we're not doing that.
No, he can answer your questions, but he can't give a presentation quickly. Yes, sir.
Chief, could you tell us basically the importance of the public safety radios?
Yes, sir. So that encompasses our consulates in the communication center. Those also encompasses the radios that also, it's not just for police, but also for fire. Many of our radios are starting to get end of life. So therefore, we needed to go ahead and start upgrading the radios and be in front of it versus behind.
Right. What is the impact of not doing that?
We won't be able to communicate effectively across the platform, and especially.
Thank you.
Councilman McMillan, you had something you wanted to ask?
No. Not at this time.
All right. So,
And please
council,
don't focus on me. This is a process
well,
for
you had your hand up. You said you asked to be recognized.
I
so-
said what I needed to say.
Okay.
Please
well,
don't do
well,
that.
I'm trying to make sure that you got an opportunity to ask your questions.
It's for all of us,
All right,
Mr.
yeah,
Mayor,
but,
to include yourself.
so, but you raised your hand, so I went to you.
Okay, it was from my last comment.
Okay.
So
All right, thank you.
to
All right,
clarify.
so council, Councilman Ferguson, you just completed, right?
I completed that section.
All right.
And the last section is, and I would hope that we would be looking at this as a council and not as an individual, but the bike lane program, we know, we constantly talk about with the least walkable city in the country. And we're just, what?
Word, we don't have that title.
Oh, we don't?
I just want to make sure.
With the second, okay. With the second least welcome, I'm sorry. NC, it's a whole bunch, but let me get to also, which y'all know, single access neighborhood connection project. The city council voted to fund it. The city council prioritized it. The city county gave it, the city gave it funding. We just recently, we've got 500,000, y'all already invested $500,000 into the design and preparing this. And now we're just gonna say, no, hold it there. I don't think that's a good thing to do because in the end, we're gonna spend a whole lot more money. And I'm not gonna go through, I think everybody knows the need for it. The council knew the need for it, or they wouldn't have accepted it and funded it. So I would hope that we would look at all of these. Of course, that's in my district, so I'm gonna support it and fight for it, but 2-cent increase would not affect this.
All right.
To a very small degree in consideration of what we would get in return. And I just think as a council, we would be fiscally irresponsible if we ignored these things. But I understand what you said at the very beginning, that we are going to consider them all. That's all I got.
Thank you. All right, council, so list 1 and 2, both the 1 cent, 2 cent. Is there a consensus to remove those items from elimination? You have that question?
Yeah, just real quick, from yesterday, with the list, I'm okay with the consensus vote. Just wanted to circle back to the chief for the assessments that I brought up yesterday with developmental associates. That was the only one that I had a question on for 1 cent. What are your, the developmental associates, the assessment centers? Just wanted to get your thoughts again on that as far as if something had to be eliminated. Could you live without that, or is that something that you need? I know there were some caveats to that, but what were you? Could you repeat your thoughts?
Yes, sir. It's one of those things where we have that particular firm that they do the promotional process for the city or specifically for the department. There's other ways. We don't anticipate having a large promotion process like we had this year. So that's why we're like, well, we may only need it for the majors position. So that full amount may not be as critical as this past year.
Okay. And that was the only reason I brought it up, because of that.
All right, thank you. Councilman Miller.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I would love to hear what the impacts on the HSIP location, Good Midling and 2 Bell Lane, that $9,000, what impact we would have in cutting that. I'm also keyed in on pavement preservation program 2, on sidewalk program, because as you know, those are things that my residents of District 8 care a lot about.
HSIP, Good Midling, 2 Bell Lane.
Yesterday's.
It's a high crash intersection location, and the project is currently funded. The estimates that we received back from the contractor have exceeded the project budget, $9,000. We complete out the design, and then we will be returning to council to ask for funding of any the recommended design. For pavement and sidewalk, I'm going to ask Byron if he can chime in.
Yeah, so the sidewalk and the pavement preservation, if you look at the note, projects listed are partially or fully funded by the rate increase. I think these are partial. This 2 cent is partial funding of those program above what's in the no increase. So sidewalks are obviously sidewalks, but pavement preservation, that's resurfacing essentially, just the bulk of that.
All right, thanks, sir. All right, so council, 1 cent, a consensus to not eliminate the items on the 1 cent list. We'll get a consensus for that. We can get staff to come back with other options, not eliminating the 1 cent list. So in other words, we do not support the elimination of 1 cent list.
So moved, Mr. Mayor.
All right. Motion received, seconded by Davis. All right.
Not eliminated.
Show of hands. Not eliminate the 1 cent list. All right. Councilman Harris?
Yes, sir.
All right. That's unanimous. Option 2, 2 cent list that we just went over.
Mayor, if I could clarify that direction, please. So you just said not to eliminate the 1 cent list. But you also said no tax increase.
Right.
Math doesn't work. So this additional list we gave you today, the balancing options, this is the other suggestions. The only suggestions we have left are these things and the other items. So the budget was structured, if I could, Mayor, just let me finish. The budget is structured to not cut people and to maintain as much of the current services. So my request to you would be, what current services, if that's the direction, what current services are we ready to reduce?
So what we're trying to get you to today, right, is just like when you gave this yesterday, you said this is our option to do that, right? And then overnight, you came back with the new solution, correct? This came back since yesterday.
Correct. And we believe these were council priorities.
The same way that you did that, because I know that you all are professional staff, that what we're trying to do is narrow the things that are on the chopping block. You've got, how thick is that?
Right. It's about 800 pages when you put
So
together.
you got 800 pages worth of options, right? So what we're saying is these are too important, the first 2 options you brought us back.
Right. But what I'm saying, Mayor, is there's not 800 pages of options. So if this is our best recommendation, what we gave you as the penny increase were the things we thought too valuable. We've already cut out $3.2 million of current services and $8.4 million of requested additional services from departments. My question to you is, without direction from council as to what you don't want to do anymore,
We're about to
we're
get
going to
there.
keep swinging in the dark.
Right, no, we're about to give you some direction. If we can get past this, this is where
And
they
this
pick
list,
up.
this list,
We're about to talk about it.
okay.
Yes, sir.
What you've given us is conflicting direction.
Well, not really. We're trying to unconflict it, but
Okay.
they wanted to continue this conversation.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I just wanted to be sure that there was
Right.
clear understanding
Right.
as
Because
to.
here's what happens, Justin, it's kept us spinning our tails. So there's capacity that exists that you reallocate and encumber before the conversation. And then when we want to align it a little closer to where we want to go, it's not available. And that's the shit, the cat and mouse game we've been playing. So when we do it, you give us something very valuable to cut, like hepatitis shots and CCTV and radios, and you don't give us things that there may be other capacity. So I wanted to make sure that we were on, as a board, speaking clearly to say that those things like hepatitis shots and radios and police personnel or some things in OCS that we do support are not options to cut. So then that'll help you reevaluate it.
Right. But in that same vein, Mayor, what you're saying is, I would respectfully disagree that the budget we put in front of you
So what you're saying
reflects
is
your
that
priorities.
even before we finish this conversation, that you have no other options, you're not professionally capable to come up with any other options.
Not that-
you presented here.
Not in your words that we give you the most visible cuts. Not that you were saying we can absolutely, we
Well,
can
keep
come back
going
and we
through
can
it.
we
keep
can
going through it
reduce
page by page.
we
I
can
got you.
reduce an entire department. That's not a
But
problem.
Jeff, we use up too much of our budget planning with this. You've already presented us your budget, so we refer to questions, but let's keep it tight. Option 2, those real important things that Councilmember Ferguson just highlighted for us. Now, this is a little different because this is requiring 2 cents to do these things, some of which are going to be discussed later. So the first option is what they brought us for the 1 cent, which had what was presented yesterday. Some of this I think we have to talk about, like under Fund 46. And that was going to come up in the next conversation as we got to the buckets. If we were able to get there.
Okay.
But I wanted to respect where y'all are. So,
Gotcha.
Do you think that we've done that by continuing
Yeah.
to finish that conversation? All right. Councilman Harris, real quick.
Yeah.
Before we-
I'm still up under the understanding that with the savings that we had led to the other day, the last couple of days, when it was just brought up about the 1 cent, and did we want to eliminate those things? The only reason I supported it was because I was thinking we would have some additional resources here to take care of that or whatever it is. If that is not it, then please pull my vote away in support of that 1 cent. And I won't even discuss with you the
What do
2
you mean,
cents.
1 cent tax?
Because we just had a discussion that you asked, well, what if we eliminate, who's against eliminating the 1 cent? That my colleague brought up here.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone voted against that. The only reason that I supported it is because I'm still thinking that we're going to have resources from here to take care of different things.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
Even if we never get to the parking lot.
Right.
Okay? So that's the reason that I supported it. Then the assistant manager came back and say, it don't add up. So if that's the case, then you all withdraw me as a support from that first one. And I'm pretty sure I won't be supporting you after you discuss the 2 cents also.
Let me clear it
Still
up.
passes.
Okay. I think what Councilmember Harris talked about.
I got my light
was the
on,
Stuff that we
just
talked
so.
about for one-time funding from the 7.3 million that we found for CIP projects. There's mentioned items on the 2 cents. They refer to radios. Radios is a CIP. That would be funded in what we can find in the 7.3. I thought our focus was going to be what we can't find, which is operational funds. That's the difference. Everything that we talked about on.
I'm with you. I mean,
It was all public safety stuff.
I'm
that
with
could be
you.
funded through
And I still,
CIP.
yeah. And if that, and then that's where that particular funding,
Still there.
wherever was in that balance could be used.
Yes, sir.
Then I'm there.
So-
Okay, then I'm still there. Okay.
Councilman Green.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. There's a couple of things that I just want to put out for you guys to think about. And I'm purely being the devil's advocate. I'm not to where I want to say I want to do this and I don't want to do that in the way of cents, how many cents I'm willing to do. I didn't take a hard line from the beginning and I've wanted to go through this process. And I think that's a little bit of where my frustration comes and coming in and saying I'm not doing something. And then for me, when I say that, I'm not open. So I want to remain open. So 3 numbers I want to put out there about tax rates. Our tax rate in 2025 was 57.95. Last year, we reduced it to 0.4495. We know why we did that. We don't have to have that conversation over and over. Even if we did a 3 cent, not advocating that, just saying 0.4795, we would still be 10 cents under where we were in 2025. I just think that's an interesting place to kind of think about that we are not, and then because here's my last statement, and then I will go back to the process. In 2025, inflation was 2.76%. Okay. Projected inflation for 2026 is 3.81%. Now, so right off the bat, you got to find 3.81% more to accomplish what we got, which I think is what we're seeing here. We can't get to where we need to be because we are outpaced. And so I think it's important that we as a body keep that in mind, that it's not always about cutting or adding or taking away something that somebody has a heart for. It's about the reality of the situation and the economy that we're in.
Good points.
Good
So
point.
for all those who are, I got it. Before I come to Councilmember Andros, I want to put some things also in context with what you said. Even though our rate was 57 cents, and now our rate is 44 cents, the check that the citizen has to write is more.
I'm
Okay, even though their money
speeding up.
is less. Gas in 2025 was about half the cost of it is right now. So you've got a community with a 19% poverty rate that is one incident away from a disaster. Homelessness has gone up since 2025. Unemployment for Black people has gone up since 2025. Unemployment for women has gone up for 2025. DEI has shrunk the federal government by 10% or more. So people who are making revenue are now unemployed. The unemployment rate is higher. So I think there are a lot of factors that, a tax rate is a talking point.
It is,
A check that they've got to write is a reality.
but an inflation rate's a real
Sure
figure.
it is. Sure it is. So anybody who's for raising the taxes, raise your hand. I'm fighting against it because I hear that the people are struggling can't afford it. So
Well-
that, and I guess we can have that debate, but that's the hard line.
Well, there's
That
not
was
a
the hard
point in
line.
having a debate over it, Mr. Mayor, because at the end of the day, we've got to make the best decision for this community.
And that's what we're trying
And
to
if
do.
we can't make the numbers work at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what my passion is or your passion is or anybody in this room. We have got to come to some agreement and some realm of what we can accomplish as a body
Right,
for the betterment of the majority of our community.
absolutely. And
I don't
agree.
negate any of the struggles. I am a numbers person.
Right,
I want people to understand.
right. Well, you stand with that. I don't want to debate that. You
Right.
got your position, I got mine. But at the end of it, I'm not giving up on the fact that we can't do it, right? It's
I'm not
tough
saying we
to
can't.
do,
I started out
but
saying
they are
that.
capable to do it. That's what so we give them the guidance and they come back with the results. All right, Councilman Hondos is the way.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate everything that's been said, and the numbers don't lie, right? So your math, taking off the 10 cent, or adding 3 cent back is 10 cent below what we were, but we're still 6 cent. Without the 3 cent, we're 6 cent above revenue neutral. That would be back to 9 cent above.
Right.
Right.
What you're saying about 3% inflation, but a 3 cent ad valorem increase is not a 3% increase.
I understand
It's
that.
a 6 2/3
I understand
percent
that.
increase. Okay, so it's not a apples to apples. We saw, it's not on the board today, but the ad valorem tax grew 1.5%, which was 3 million. Remember the number?
2.4.
And then that's 1 cent is
1 cent.
2.4, but the 1.5% increase in inflation in values of this year's total aggregate ad valorem tax collection versus last year's up 1.5%. Sales tax is up 3.3% or something like that. So inflation is, we're doing that. I don't know, the residents I've spoken to, I don't know they would be supportive of any tax rate increase. So thank you.
All right, see you, and then Harry.
Not to go back on where Jeff was at, but to make sure that we're clear about the first question that Dr. Hare asked when we came in about what we were bringing back to you today. The departments looked at what they could fund based within their targets. And what was on the list that y'all have covered yesterday and this morning were the things that I'll use, let's say the chief of police as an example, the developmental associates. If we go back and we add that in, which is the vote that you just took, then that means that what we had done, the exercise we had was to try, I got the wrong sheet, I got too many sheets, was to show you how we could do that. But there are some things that we can't do, that we would be, still had a gap. If you do that with, though, on the capital side, then again, we're looking at, and then add more stuff. I mean, we'll wait until we get to the end, but ultimately, the number is the number. And so how the budget is designed, it was, again, from every meeting, We designed it so that you could do it with a 0 tax rate increase. We did that. Showed you what 1 penny on operations would get you, 2 pennies, or 1 penny on capital, or 2 pennies on capital. We understood that was the assignment from yesterday, and we came back and we gave you that. And if there are things that you wanted to add in, then we could find the money for that. But I'm really concerned that we are beyond where we were for an assignment. And when you're basically saying, I want everything, but I'm not going to pay for it. So the cuts that we're talking about, the reductions that we're showing on the sheet, just help me find out.
It's the additional penny for capital and additional penny for operating.
And so, yeah, so for us, I got it. So when we go back and we look at for the operations, which y'all have just said you want everything in order to do that, what we were talking about was reducing again the list that Jeff talked about on downtown events. We're talking about some additional savings in the police department, increasing the parking revenues for transit and council discretionary parking lots, citizen survey, increased vacancy savings, and all of those things. We can get you to that 0 part, but I just want us to make sure before we leave that we don't have an undoable task, because if we're cutting below what we are showing, because this is already, if you were to agree to that recommendation, we'd have to go to Cool Springs or others and say, we've got to work on sponsorships. We've got to adjust our parking revenues.
So before you go there, right? Because that's if we can't get anywhere. So the list that you gave us today mirrors the same list that was given to us, right? Of what an additional penny would do, what an additional 2 pennies would do in the CIP. So this is nothing new. You haven't really come up with nothing new. Like this one has recommended for additional pennies, it's fleet maintenance and we go. So second penny, farmers road, single access 50,000 still there, supplemental protection plan. Still there. So it's basically the same list.
We're on the list that Jeff handed
The
out.
list you passed out today was the same list that was distributed on April the 8th.
Yes.
Okay, so there's nothing new about this. When the budget was presented, it said it'll take a penny to do this. It'll take a
Listen,
penny
guys,
to do
listen,
that.
listen.
This was not a revision based on anything other than that first list is what's saying gotta be cut. It took the same items that's here. You look at your April.
Yeah, no, I got you. I'm
All
on
right.
track. I've
So,
been track.
so this is not a new apocalyptic outcome that we're talking about, that all of a sudden we can't do it. This was given to you in the beginning.
Right, I understand.
This is a 0 option.
Right.
The 1 cent option, this is a 2 cent. All
It
right?
just wasn't reduced like this.
All right, so council, real quick. So as we get to this, if we could, since we don't have scenarios that we can talk about. So Mr. Yates, up here, your vacancy number, well, that's a one-time thing. So on the recurring, operation is where we got a gap, right? So in the event that you do a 3 cent COLA versus a 4 cent COLA and leave the retirement at 4% versus 5%, what does that free up from an operational standpoint?
Sure. Reducing the employee compensation gets you 600
It's
and.
not reducing, it's just not increasing it by as much.
however
It's
you would like
important
to
to
phrase
put
it.
that out there.
Okay, whichever you would like. Reducing the recommendation, because you have to think in reductions and and adds, is you would say 669, 750, changing from a 4% pay increase to a 3% pay increase. Eliminating the additional 1% 401k contribution. Keeping it at 4% would be worth 601,000.
600.
What was that first figure?
669, 750.
A little over 1.2 million in recurring, correct? Capacity.
Yes.
So far.
Yes.
1.2.
1.271.
All right, can you write that up there? So that's an operational capacity savings. Not a one-time, but an ongoing. That one thing. All right,
We're talking about operations.
Yep. I'll go over for you. I'm not going to go through each section and give you the totals.
yeah, but we got, I want to.
That's fine.
You can get a clean board too, sir, if you want. Just move that one.
Slide.
All right.
Motion mark.
So, as a part of that consideration only, and then I guess we'll slide it back to get to the budget. Part of that, so you got 1.271 in capacity. All right, and so really, you've got the new OCS one team, not two. There was two in the budget. One team was worth what, 200 and something thousand?
277,000.
Does that include the car?
That would include the vehicle.
So if you were able to, because we rotate our fleet in and out, let's say you were able to find them a vehicle, what does that bring that number down to? Because the vehicle, that wouldn't be a 277 recurring, because you wouldn't buy a vehicle every year after year after year.
Correct. It would be, I'd have to get the exact.
Well, you gotta have it separated, because you're giving us a number that's coming out of the operational side. Vehicle wouldn't be an operational purchase.
Correct. I just don't have it at my fingertips.
So let's say what, 40,000, 50,000? So if you found a vehicle, you know, it's a big organization and we always buying cars. So if you found a vehicle they could use temporarily, that might be 30, 40,000.
Sure.
All right. So
If you want to take 40,000.
So let's say it's 250. Well, you don't need the vehicle. Let's say you can find a vehicle of something that's being rotated. So if you even added that team, that's about 250. That write it in green there so they can see how you get actually. Or blue. There's blue. Yeah. All right. So that can handle the team. Unfreezing 8 of his officers versus 10 would be how much?
1,095,056.
1095.
We do not.
Do not have what?
You would not have enough vehicles to cover your staffing. If you were to add and fill 8 positions, you would not have enough vehicles.
Well, we didn't reduce it. So don't you have car purchases in this budget?
We do, but we don't have enough vehicles as it sits today. If the police department were to go to full staffing, we do not have
We'll
enough
come back to that.
vehicles
Right. So
today.
We'll just write that next to that. We'll look at this.
It's 1,095,056.
1,095,000. 1.1. So that takes care of those two. Right? 8 officers and the mental health teams. Nobody got all they wanted, but everybody got a little something. All right. Now, as far as operational, another operational relief would be,
Clarify for me, Jeff, that, the 1,095,000, is that the cost or the savings? What are we,
It's a cost. So the 3% is a savings, the 250 is a cost.
that's why I'm confused, because they're writing them both ways. Right, so.
if you did it at 3 versus 4.
Would you like me to do it, Mayor Pro Tem?
Come on.
Plus and minuses.
Yep, I got it.
Thank you, because it's got a little bit of a mix going on, and I'm mathematical, so I can't follow it.
And to write all the minuses.
Get on the text.
Fix this up for you guys.
Got different color markers. I have a
Why?
I can get rid of it.
In the parking lot bills. No increase.
Sorry.
Next one.
Increase.
Oh, yes, sir. Response.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. Mental health, one mental health response team minus the vehicle, don't put the cost.
It's not good.
So without the vehicle, you said take off 40,000. Is that what you said, sir?
Roughly.
So it was 5 something with 2 teams, it was.
So the net savings, take one team and you take the vehicle from the first team. The net savings or the net change in your budget, the recommended budget, that's what it is. From recommendation to change. It's saved, so negatives in this case are savings.
I get it.
Positives are add backs. 17, your net savings.
That's two teams, no cars.
That's one team.
Yeah, I would like, okay, I'll get the number for two. I understand the cuts with the cars, but the two teams I would like.
All right, so as an option, can you write in another color that 8 officers, we're not talking about cars, I understand.
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Hold on.
May I interject?
Yes, sir. Let me let him write that before we lose train of thought.
So what is that?
But can you put a little space so you can total that 669, 601, 317, so we know what we're dealing with? Yeah.
But I got it.
So I want to know how many teams were originally.
Mr. Mayor,
1.587. Yes, sir.
I have a process-related concern. I'd like to voice.
All right. Second. Let me bring this right these numbers.
Your net at this point. 492, 694.
Okay. Of recurring operating capacity. Just two. All right, Councilmember McMillan.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Respectfully, I feel like you're wasting our time.
Okay.
And I say that, please don't interrupt me. Please allow me to talk. Please allow me to talk.
Directly to me, make your case.
Please allow me to finish.
You're paid by the people to be here today.
Please allow me to finish my
All right,
statement.
well, keep it on the subject, not me.
Please don't interrupt me, sir.
All right, go ahead. You got the floor temporarily.
Okay, so I was with you yesterday. Matter of fact, I said I loved this setup. I thought it was gonna be a constructive conversation. I agreed with going back to the parking lot at some point to talk about where our priorities fit. And that is the way you could approach this as a facilitator, which that's your main duty for this board. You're one vote of 10. I want you to remember.
You
that.
are too.
I am as well. That's why I say this is process related. I just wanted for context, go back to this process. I've had a staff that's been working on this since this time last year, I'm sure.
All due respect.
Please don't interrupt me, sir. Please do not. Please allow me to finish my statement.
About it. Make your case.
Please allow me to finish. We have a staff that we should all be respecting that has brought a bunch of amazing recommendations to us for consideration. Since last year, they've been working on this. We have a council of 9 of your peers, sir, who've had a process that has led us to this point that allowed us to build a parking lot. And you laid it out so that we could come and back and have a constructive conversation about what is in that parking lot. And then this morning, come in with your own set of recommendations. You're one of, please don't interrupt me, sir.
No, sir.
Allow me to
No, sir.
finish.
You're not gonna have.
Allow me to
free rein
finish,
like
sir.
that. Councilmember McMillan.
Then this morning, you bring this in to 9 of your peers and then hijack the meeting with your priorities.
However, sir.
You have a role as a facilitator, and I'm asking you to facilitate within this process.
Councilmember McMillan, the floor is retrieved. So if we would have been able to get to this, and I
That's not
understand.
your
No,
call
no,
alone,
no,
sir.
No,
That's
sir,
this
you
board's call.
spent a few minutes talking about
That's
what you
our
don't know.
call.
Wait, hold on. Point of order, Mr. Mayor.
Yes, sir.
We have a process that we
Right.
have been using ever since I have been
And
on
you
council.
just got here.
Mr. Mayor, can I finish? And it hasn't changed. We always go over the parking lot, and we always go over the whiteboard. I don't understand your concern if this is the way that I've done it for the past 4 years. And just because, let me finish, Mr. Mayor, these items come from the parking lot, that's not excluding anything that's left off the parking lot that can still be up for discussion. So I think you're trying to make your case just a little bit too soon until we finish the process.
Right.
You can't complain about the process. The process isn't finished.
Sorry. So these came off of the parking lot.
Off of the parking lot.
We came up with the parking lot as a group of 10.
Exactly.
How many people worked on this?
Well,
Everybody.
look.
How many
nobody
people
all
did
of the
work
parking
on
lot.
this? I didn't.
Well,
I wasn't
Councilmember
consulted on
Do
this.
you have a motion to discontinue this parking lot?
Yes,
If so, make it.
I have a motion to go back to what we said we were going to do at the end of yesterday, Mayor Pro Tem. When we were here, before the mayor was
Is
here,
it a second
we
to this
agreed on
motion?
that process, and I would like to go back
We're wasting
to.
our time now. Is it a second to the motion? All right, that's for lack of second. Let's do it. Keep going. All right, so as council, so right now it's 492 of capacity to solve whatever problems that we need to have from an operating standpoint. So Mr. Jeff, if you could slide the board back to the list that we've been working on for the last couple of days. All right, so on the savings of the CIP, which is kind of where Councilmember Harrell was this morning, a combination of those items.
We're gonna need the board.
Okay.
Mayor wants to erase his other board.
He's erasing the budget?
Yeah, we can put those back.
We can put them back, but if you're going to go through your list, we're gonna need all the whiteboards.
Okay, all right.
There's not enough space.
Not enough whiteboards. Not enough whiteboards.
You got one over there?
We'll put the buckets back up, so.
All right. So these were some of the CIP items that we have worked on saving. So
I need to say what I need to
Mr.
say.
Yates, what is our sum total of one-time
Somebody that
savings?
doesn't show us.
That's the same
Back.
choice.
Now it
You could
works.
have done
The total is 6.4.
that. I emailed
And
mine.
that is on the list I gave you this morning.
No.
The down the bottom.
I was trying to thank her for the markers. We need.
Yes, she's listening, she knows me. So she went to my board and got all that.
The paper you give us is.
So the one we gave you this morning was marked at the top, additional balancing options. Underneath that is additional balancing options one time from city council.
Yep,
whiteboard.
Okay.
6.30.
Yeah,
That's what we need.
6.430.
All right, so does this have everything that we have on there?
Yes, sir. If you go through, adds the additional billion for vacancy savings. It says you're gonna take the 450 from the makerspace. That's closed project money, right? You're gonna take the elimination of the makerspace project, which was the prior appropriation of 1.2 million.
Yes, sir.
It's gonna take the Stadium View project, reduce it to 3 million. I know on your other list you have it all going, but reduce it to 3. And you're gonna have the use of fund balance. Otherwise, I didn't know how you wanted it, so I put it on here as 1.08.
So how do we have 7.3 there and 6.4?
Uh,
What do we miss?
I think in these two, in items 2 and 3, there's some double counting. So if council chooses, again, to achieve any more than the makerspace project as a savings, you just need to tell us which projects you want to take off the list. But the only, on the parking lot, you had mentioned the new Century track as a possible option of that reallocated money. But the only consensus discussion council had yesterday wasn't real clear, was about makerspace. So we, on this list, to not outkick the coverage, we left some of those things on the parking lot as a discussion point, but we gave you the options.
So
on this.
just so the council knows what the net amount of money that they've discovered is the 6.4.
Right. Yes, sir. The changes.
The changes would equate to 6.4.
Yes, sir. So this is, if you chose these options
And
comfortably, this is what
And
I
that
think
is
you get to.
with, and keep in mind, council, that is with only unencumbering half of stadium. We don't have a contract. I don't know that he has a contract, but, you know, the manager always says money doesn't disappear. So, you know, you can leave it at that. You know, it's been projected out both ways, but right now it's 6.4 with just half of it.
The only caveat I would tell you is that if you take that 2.7 and you put it into other projects and you spend it on something else,
Then it's not a
then it
source,
will not be available
unless you.
Right.
unless you take it from somewhere else.
So
Just,
that's
that's the only caveat is you can't spend it twice.
Right, so if it's
You can
next
do
budget year, then you,
450 from the
that's not.
Take that one point.
When your fund balance flows.
Yeah, it will come out of your, if you spend your fund balance, it won't be in the fund balance. And it'll be next year, you'll be having a discussion about where to get 2.7 or 5.7, whatever that number ends up being.
Right,
You'll have to figure out how to get that out of your budget or go below your policy level.
right, or get it from another source.
Or get it from another source.
Right.
I just have one question.
Yes, sir.
Your last sentence says reduce the fund balance to 12%. That's where we need to be at 12%. So why is your estimate saying that we'll be below?
What I'm saying is that if you take both the vacancies and the 1.08 million, then you run the risk, because we won't know fund balance until the end of the year.
When you get all the revenue.
When we get all the revenues, all the expenditures, and remember, fund balance isn't just revenue and expenditures. It is about liabilities, actuaries, and a whole bunch of different stuff.
So you can't determine that till the end of the year.
We can't determine exactly.
Okay.
This is our estimate. You're just cutting yourself really close. You're taking, when you take the million, essentially what you're saying is that 1.08 is now 2.08 that you have to achieve to stay above your 12%.
So that 6.4 that we have in CIP will cover everything that was on the one penny, is correct?
The one
One-time
list.
list.
Yes, sir. So if you just said straight up, we want to take this list, and we want to, instead of doing a 2-cent tax increase, we just want to fund everything directly in the CIP. That was there. You can make that swap.
Can we make that motion now, Mr.
Wait, let me make sure I'm understanding.
What does that include?
Wait, you need to decide.
So,
We talking about on the list that Roberto, that they passed out at first.
No, it would fund this list. This list right here.
What's the title of the check?
That's the one penny.
The additional 2-cent allocation capital.
No, we're talking about it had all police on
You
it.
can save the way they want to
I
save.
thought you said
You
1
said
cent.
capital. Didn't you say capital?
So that's why I clarified,
You said all
because
capital.
Where's the 1 cent?
We just gotta
You
make
said
the
all
1-cent
capital.
list is for operations, so no, sir.
You
They
said
could
we
not
vote on
fund.
It's about the one that we went over yesterday and had all.
Here, we're all being
That was
bullied.
operational.
operation.
Then the answer is no, sir, you couldn't do that.
We couldn't do that?
No, sir.
All right.
But you can on the capital, if
Now-
that's what you want to do.
Now, at the parking lot, so basically you have about 490+ thousand in operations capacity. You got about 6.43 mil in capacity from one time option. And so, council, you
So
look
the
at.
6.4 is
So
CIP.
let's pull the parking lot list out. Where is that?
Hold on.
and the 400
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
Yes, sir.
What was the whole number? For what?
For what?
For what was the number?
492,674.
Oh, okay.
Right there, so this, we'll call this the
I
one time.
told you,
Okay.
told you I had concerns about the process.
And you didn't get a second to your motion.
So let me ask you if you would like to put a motion on for us to move to your personal parking lot.
Not that yet. So I'm running the meeting. This is a part of it.
This is your personal parking lot.
Yeah, well, we haven't voted on that yet.
Okay, you need a consensus for us
Yes, sir.
to go to your
If
personal
we get
parking
there,
lot.
right now we're going to the parking
Okay,
lot.
let's use the process.
All right, Councilmember, you.
Parking
Close
lot.
it. All right. So 6.43, that's the number that.
That was the number I just gave you.
So the parking lot items.
Yesterday,
Consensus.
Yeah, that's right here.
Well, I got
All right, here it is.
this is the newest one. The one that's marked yesterday at 8:58
a
a.m.
consensus scorecard.
Yep, the consensus,
Yeah.
city council parking lot / consensus scorecard should have 31 items on it.
Yes, I got that.
You can borrow mine.
Yeah.
It's getting a little bit.
Long paper.
It's this.
He said.
So it's an 8.5.
Yeah, 6.4.
Yes, sir, you guys can add
Yeah.
based on all the additional ads.
When did you hand it out, Jeff?
It was part of the package from yesterday.
And if you
I
would give
gave it all
us,
mine.
just a minute, we'll can run across the hall and get a couple copies.
Can I ask a question?
Yes, sir, Councilman Hare.
Okay, I want to make sure I'm understanding, because I think I'm following real good here. The 6.4 million is for our CIP projects,
One-time money.
one-time money. And does that allow for any extra in the CIP? Is anything left over out of the 1 point?
So what we're about to do now is figure out how council wants to move with things that you're talking about, stuff that you can pay with one time.
Okay, but I'm saying the 6.4 million. There's no CIP projects attached to that?
Okay, So,
Because of what I was asking was, if they are,
Mhm.
then what would be the balance?
of what's left after that.
Right.
So we're
Then
about
we
to go
move
over
to
that.
here.
So
Okay.
they'll be able to answer this question after we
Okay.
talk through that.
Okay, all right.
All right. So this list came from this list. It just put it in whatever bucket it would have fit in, right? So on this list are drones. OCS is pretty much an operational cost, except the cars, right? So drones were there. Let's see what else is in public safety bucket. So did y'all draw the bucket back on the board? We're on the parking lot now. Can use that? So we've already got the number from that back.
So it depends on, do you want it to go against, do you want to keep a running total of your
So
dollars? or do
you've
you wanna-
given us that it's 6.4 million that you can write up here, so we'll know what you're dealing with. One time.
Right, so we have that, so if you just like, if you want to start adding, I
Yeah.
can start pushing.
So that's
against
why I
that
said
six.
leave that and just, now you got your buckets to categorize the parking lot items
So if you
into
start
council's
adding them back, we
goal.
can do that first. So public safety, I can just do it like this. Now, however much you'd like to add to public safety, you can add that.
Well, his drones were on the parking lot, so that's a public safety item. But council hadn't got there yet, that's why I needed the categories back up.
Okay. So
Square,
Okay.
the bucket. According to our priority. What were those goals? Where the strategic planning guys?
He hadn't listed.
Yeah, they were at the top of.
So you're talking about the four
Yeah.
areas we have.
Right, yes, sir.
Community,
Was it economic?
desirable place.
No, it was the one with the neighborhood reinvestment,
Priorities instead of goals.
priority.
You wanted priorities, not goals.
Right.
Okay, well, that's a little different.
That's what Playboy had on.
Yeah.
Hard to see it better in purple.
Well, I'm sorry, let me change that.
I'm just saying, you probably can see, I can see better over
We
here.
won't into that.
You showing up there. Nothing wrong with a little laughter.
So if
A little laughter.
If it make you happy, Councilman, I can do it.
Yes, sir, yes, sir, yes, sir. It'd be better for everybody to see across the room.
Got too many alphas in the house. Can't bless it.
Hey, brother. That brother needs some wood right there. I tell you, he need a little taste of wood. Straight, yeah. Y'all just give us a break. Leave him in here with us. We can tighten him up real good.
Is anyone get a council consensus from the short sheet? That sheet that, everybody has?
Yeah. So let's run down the list of drones, public safety. That first, what does that say at the top of that first one?
Continued improvement in
Community safety. So drones, right? What's the cost of drones?
drones, if you don't do the personnel, it's 202.
$202,684.
202,684. That's an ongoing cost. So, not a one-time. Because that's the first year.
That's operation.
That's operation.
That's for what?
So wait, is all of that operation? Are the drones?
It's
a lease.
purchase.
So, right, but the drones were 5 years, so it's 202 on average each year for 5 years. Is that right? I know they did 1 year for free, but it equates to 202 over 5.
It's 2.1 over the 6-year period. But 1 year is.
2.1 divided by 5.
Right. It's more like a SAS because my understanding, we haven't settled on a vendor, because we'll still have to bid it out. The options are pay them to provide you drones. Most of them are doing it such that they'll replace the drone in the upgraded cycle, just like we did with Axon. You would have your contract, you just keep renewing it, give you different equipment. You don't buy the equipment and then have to replace the equipment. It's a service agreement that they'll replace it, fix it, do whatever. It's like leasing a car. End of the lease, they get to keep the equipment, they give you new equipment.
So would that be in our technology plan? Like we've got a TIP and a CIP, right?
It could be, but it's really an ongoing operational. Either place you put it, it has to have ongoing revenue.
We understand.
Right, so whether it's in your TIP
Or you encumber it all and instead of.
if you wanted to put 2 million in, but then you would have a definitive in the contract.
No, I get right.
Absolutely. And then it would come out wherever you put it, you would have to cover that.
All right, so, but just for the time being, just write drone there, so we know.
Yes.
All right.
Sir.
I got a quick
Yes, sir,
question, just a
Councilman.
quick question on that. So that's an annual fee, is that toward the full purchase? And is that incumbent upon the free first year?
It would be subject to appropriation. It would be an operating lease.
Right,
So
I know the first year was saying would be free.
can't say that because we don't have a contract.
Okay.
We've had companies
So the
come to us.
proposal, because we encumber a lot of stuff without contract, so.
True, true.
I was just wondering if that incumbent. They say, okay, we'll give you a year free, but
It'll
you're
have
gonna
to
have
be
to.
bid. So you will have to put it on the street and then see what the proposals are. Police department has had conversations with vendors that you can't just enter the contract. That would be not appropriate under the general statute. So we will have to either buy it off state contract or go through.
So we're just estimating the money, right?
So that 1 year would be
So
incumbent
this would
upon.
allow you, this is an estimate. Could be higher, could be lower,
Went to right.
based on the number of drones, based on the contractor.
All right. So anything else that was on the parking lot list that was considered public or community safety? We got the mental health responders and got the drones. I know we got to get in detail about it. This is just capturing them. They fit in that first bucket. That's real. All right.
Ask a clarifying question, Mayor.
Yes, sir.
You have the list, you have the penny list for operations.
Oh, don't you tell me that.
I'm just asking the question. Where does the penny list for operations, is it part of, I know on this list, it's not included.
In existence.
Okay, so is this assumption is under this list that because there are some ongoing operational issues in there, is the suggestion for this exercise that this is in addition to the penny list? Or this assumes the penny list goes away?
No.
You assume the tax rate reduction.
I think what was said originally, the consensus that your first list that they presented yesterday with the penny items were not cutting lists.
Okay.
All right, and so we'll talk about how we get there. But yes, so I guess that was
So
just
this-
what you,
Yes, this is in addition to the
right.
penny reduction.
Yeah.
Okay, that's what I wanted to,
Yes,
I wanted
sir.
to be sure I
That's all I'm
understood
saying.
for the purposes of this exercise.
Right.
what that is.
Real quick, Mr. Mayor,
Yes.
these operational items that's on this parking lot item that don't have funding, don't have a dollar value, how you gonna determine
So
that?
you could put that here, right? So you still got 492,000.
Right.
And then you got that over here. This was to capture the item. You
Right.
put the number there.
But these, if you look at increased opportunities for childcare, he has ongoing, but he don't have no number on it.
Right.
Same thing with additional right-of-way maintenance, he has it there, but he don't have no number on it.
So, and that's why I suggested numbers for them to add to that.
Gotcha.
Whoever put it on the parking lot didn't put.
Didn't put a number.
Didn't put a number with it.
Capture. Gotcha. All right, Councilman, McMillan.
Yes,
And first, I'm sorry, you already spoke.
yeah, no, he answered. I was just wondering how we were going to the parking lot but, okay. We're doing this with the parking lot. We didn't do it.
The parking lot is how we got
No,
to what you deem is important. I would, some of it, he's not gonna have all the numbers figured out, they're gonna come back to it. But he was able to tell you about what each thing costs, like the drawing. And so it could be paid over there. All right, Councilman McMillan.
When we get to the point where we're discussing in detail these community safety items, I would like to talk specifically about ShotSpotter and that contract and the money we're spending on it.
All right, so council, as we move from there, the next bucket was economic development was our priority. And on the parking lot, the things that capture that were,
You need me to write like you run next door. What you do?
Would workforce development go in there?
Seeing it.
Workforce development, wouldn't that go in there?
It still works. WERK.
all right,
That would be it.
so it had, or it should have had, FCEDC, right? President came and presented a call on the opportunity plan. Put it on there to make sure we're tracking it. General contract and licensing, electrician, then HVAC, expansion, the contracting class has produced, I don't know how many licensed general contractors. FTC said they could add electricians to that, which is one of the most upcoming trades in demand. Even at a speech at one of the technical schools, graduation speech, they talked about the people need to learn these trades and electricians and HVAC. So I think we're making some ground economically there. But those were some of the things that I know not only we've captured here, but council has voted consensus in council member requests. And it was given and it showed up on the tracker, but there were no budget items. Yesterday, and you bring things in, we approve it, but if it doesn't have any money, it sits.
So do we need funding for those two items?
So, yeah, I had put the proposed amount on there for that stuff, but we can talk about that. But we didn't have anything that reflected, and when I kept talking about alignment, these were our priorities. We didn't have anything that was suggested that touched one of these spaces. All right. So that next bucket was housing in neighborhoods, particularly legacy or older neighborhoods. It had, some of them, I guess residents.
No budget, no budget.
Had the older home, talked about older home repair 2 or 3 times, they talked about it. No money was attached to it, so the proposal on here, under the bottom paragraph, we talked about it. Council passed the sewer connection for phase 5 area, to expand the grant program. There was no funding in it, so I added it on here as a part. Who's writing these notes? So, sir?
This is from the list you guys.
Yes, sir. And previous items that council has already supported. So a lot of that wasn't captured in this, and that's what I'm saying. When we were putting the parking lot together, we may call and say, oh, add this, oh, add that.
Right.
There are things that you've already voted on and said that we wanted to do, we just didn't have any budgets tracking. All right. So as far as the older neighborhoods, I think that we had Hollywood Heights was on here. For consideration. We have a community watch meeting yesterday. Councilman McNair was 92 degrees in the building because the building is just a center block building. The carpet's gone and no heat in there, no air to function.
Would that be a grant to that?
Probably possible. So however, we work the logistics out.
That place is in need of
But
help.
that definitely is an older neighborhood. The neighborhood uses it. So just thought about that.
Yep, it's in need of help.
Yeah, West Fayetteville,
Who owns it? Is that a city facility? Who owns that facility?
Thank you.
The neighborhood.
Community wise. I don't know.
The seniors.
He's talking about where? Oh, yeah. This is-
All right,
I went by there.
make sure we write the
Yeah, the seniors, they own it.
That's not economic
Did that.
development. I guess that'll be
Council.
housing, older neighborhoods, right, older neighborhoods over there, that's banned housing.
Curtis,
That was what. Priority was. Older neighborhood.
I was there yesterday.
wanted
He
to-
said,
So something that's
I think that'll
They
be
canceled
It was just short. It was only like 20 minutes.
Oh, so kids will say they canceled.
She told me that.
And then, oh, okay.
I said, when she
You want
said
200 in
me,
that?
I told her you were,
Yeah.
had a conflict.
Oh, okay.
We wanted to talk about code enforcement.
Oh, okay. She'll call me.
You can abbreviate.
Yeah, she'll call me. We talk about that all the time.
Some illegal documents.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Where we at? Movie Street, okay.
That empty lot. I saw it when they drove by. Some trash, and then they mentioned it in the meeting.
Oh, okay.
So the older neighborhood, older home repair, Chris had presented to us that they've been dealing with United, with Urban Ministries for the last, what, Chris, forever since you've been?
Yeah,
I know since I've been here.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Urban Ministries does a great job, but they always run out of money. Now, I know we talked about the capacity or if there was room for another partner, but there's a lot of need for that program, and Chris presented that at the council meeting. Council received the report, so I want to make sure and then they re-emphasize older neighborhoods after that conversation.
Question.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Colley, you were mentioning at the last revitalization meeting about the need for that $71,000, I think it was, to do the study in order to move forward with the program that you.
The affordable housing study, yes, sir.
Right. Is that included in that?
We have found additional source of funding
You have
for that.
found
So
additional
We do
source.
not need that on the project.
Okay. All right, all right.
Ms. Jody, can you talk to, we got a $4 million request at the state for OCS. What is that because?
I believe that was the first item on your state legislative agenda, and it was programmatic in nature for the full build out of specifically the mental health, prioritizing mental health response, the program, also supplementing the youth violence programs, the community violence intervention, the programmatic areas of the OCS as we start looking at building that up.
So if the state wrote that check, we just got.
If the state wrote the check, it's also on your federal agenda as well. We've had a lot of conversations, particularly with Tillis's office, about potential options.
Was that the first item? I don't think it was the first.
It-
It's on there.
It was listed in council's priorities when we did that at the strategic planning session as number one, but we didn't have them prioritized in that way for federal. But if state or federal funding comes through, that's a gift. We probably would not receive it. We don't have a
So we
state
know we
budget.
wouldn't get 2 cents back
Okay, we
to
didn't.
the tax rate.
We wouldn't know that at, right.
All right, so council. Right. All right, so, so moving to transit, remember, last two goals, priorities for transit. So benches and trash cans have been talked about in previous meetings and requests. So there was, you know, just a proposal of 50,000 there for that.
Would you like that to be over here?
Yes, sir, in the transit.
In my request, I think I had
That
put
was
somewhere
Councilmember
between,
Jones that talked about that at one time.
yeah, I think I had put somewhere between 120 and 168.
For benches and so just put it at one
Yeah,
twenty.
just
Until we can figure out what the
figure out.
actual need is. Also too, you know, we've got 4 or 5 new buses coming in. We talked about that initially. Replacing or upgrading buses. We had also talked about and received a presentation that West Fayetteville was an area that we needed to add some extra expansion to. Which we understand that that's gonna take a little bit more than doing it, but the thought here of putting 250 in there was to see if one of those buses, I think that route for West Fayetteville was about 100-some thousand. Think if one of those buses that are being replaced, the best one can remain in service to do a pilot or test route in West Fayetteville like we did Hope Loop Road. We didn't just start out with Hope Loop Road as a route, we tested.
Right.
And so, we talked about doing it, particularly as transit builds and expands. So I had a number there, 250, so that we can, you know, we can talk about that, but at least it was something in transit. And then the other area under that was litter and right of way. If they do a public information request, how many times I send Michael Gibson a text about trash, a mattress, or the right of way, or the number of times that I get an email or a text or a call from a citizen telling us how the city maintenance looks on these corridors. And I know his teams are doing the best they can with what they have, but we can't say something's important if we don't put the resources. Right? I sent a picture the other day of where there was, and by the way, the staff jumped right out there and took care of it. But I was just happened to be going to the bank, and the road sign was covered up with vines. You know, so they're doing the best they can, but this is adding some additional capacity, 300,000 for litter and right of way maintenance. We did that a few years back. Yes, sir. Councilman Mahadra.
Question for staff. So that additional 300 in funding, if the
That's the
consensus
recommended amount.
would be how much total?
It puts you over 1.8
Because
for right away maintenance.
I think we need about 2.4, 2.5 million. So I would definitely support the additional 300K.
I want to clarify one thing for expectation purposes, Mayor. On the West Fayetteville route, the new buses that you have ordered will not be received until
Order that we just placed will be
18
August or September of 22nd.
So you won't have any additional buses
Until then.
until then. So if the expectation is that we start running additional routes using recycled buses, then.
That was just my recommendation.
I just wanted to manage the expectation
No,
because I didn't want you to be upset
If
if you don't see the
it.
buses running
Yeah,
up
no,
and
I
down.
appreciate it. So, Ms. Tiffany, do you have the capacity to pick up to do a pilot of one route? I know it puts you in an awkward way.
Today?
Tomorrow, with a
Not
check.
tomorrow either. Once we get the newer buses, we'll have an opportunity to, but I'm.
Next budget.
So until you get, so you can't, if you had a check for, unless you have a bus accompanying it, you don't have the ability to put any more routes in.
No, you can revise the route, but I couldn't add.
So-
a lot.
Talk about that.
So just depending on council's interest of where you want that route to go, we can look at revising the route and still staying within our hours and our mileage.
But that'll help you capture numbers to say
Yes, sir.
if this is feasible in investing in it.
Yes,
But Mayor, I think so you may go from 30-minute headway to an hour on one route to add that capacity to a new route.
you could, yes, sir.
Is that what you're talking about, the revision? Well, how would you?
No, you can keep the same hourly route or half-hour route, just depending on what you want. I'm saying I can stay within the box that we are in now and just revise it, just depending on the interest of.
But how do you revise it? To a new location or?
Yes, sir. So instead of going left, we would go right and we would cover this neighborhood and, yes, sir.
But the same hour headways or 30-minute headway?
Yes, sir.
All right, Councilman Miller.
I look forward to
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Director Neal, you've given us an excellent brief that talks about the benefits of a transit center in Western Fayetteville. We talked about the money that would be saved. We talked about the upgrade in the service. Thank you for that information. We received it. I thought that we had great consensus and agreement that that was the right direction to go in. For this budget, are the funds for laying the groundwork for that Western Fayetteville Transit Center included? Or is that something that we should be discussing in the parking lot?
So when you presented that, you haven't identified a site or a cost or a building or design. Talk to us about that.
Yes, sir. So we just did the preliminary. We just looking in the area to see how many parcels would be available should we have the funding to move forward. We didn't identify a specific site, just the general area of what was currently available at the time of the report. Because we don't have any local or federal funding allocated for a facility at this time. But I think working with Jody and Fort Bragg, we are exploring a grant now that will allow us to potentially get a facility in West Fayetteville. And as a backup, we still have opportunities from FTA. Once a notice of funding opportunity becomes available, we're going to run and make sure we submit our application for that. So we are postured and ready to go. We're just waiting for those.
Councilwoman Miller, I think giving her some extra resources keeps her ability to test some of this stuff and to keep working on, I guess, location and some of the things you need to do to move toward that. Right.
The bus, can't do anything without a bus.
Can't do anything without some money. All right. So, council, we also, I guess this would be probably under community safety, and I know we were gonna unpack that a little bit. We supported Councilmember McNair's, gun safety, program, public service announcements and so forth. Hadn't really seen a lot of movement there, but wanted to just put a couple of dollars there just in case we want to ramp that up. Maybe there's some grants, about gun storage or, things we can talk about. Not controversial stuff, but, we see at 9 o'clock, lock the doors, we can be ramping that stuff up. So maybe there's an opportunity for those guys, or John Jones' office, or something to talk about how important it is to secure your firearm, and that. But we supported it. Again, there's no money.
Did we not say, did they ask for $5,000 to support
I don't know. I just didn't see it anywhere. And when I went back to the tracker and I went back to all our requests.
We've incorporated that. They do have a plan. They are running stuff now. We started it last week, turned the lights orange for gun safety awareness.
So do you have
So they've already started.
We have in the current capacity, we have allocated our advertising budget, a portion of that to cover the gun safety awareness
For this year and next.
for this year, and we can do it within the existing budget for next year.
Okay.
So I don't believe that there's any additional funding.
But,
If you want to send more, we're always happy to.
but we would welcome the 25 for additional communications activities to include gun safety.
Absolutely.
Councilman Perkins.
And this is on the side, but I think there is a way that we can work with our local media outlets and
So Martin will do the.
tell them I'll do it for free.
Plug in the district and we can do some of theirs.
Right, what I'm saying, yeah.
That's right, that's right.
But I think that we can work with our local media outlets and get them to buy in and really get that stuff for free.
They are listening. They're already listening.
I think I can make that happen.
We'll tell you.
I think they would buy in and as a community.
I think Councilman Davis.
I don't see the downtown manager on the board.
So again, that was a council tracker. It was something that I think we got support for. That would probably be under an economic piece. That would be the point person that someone would call for the downtown business. MSD that we charge extra fees.
You guys gonna put it on?
Yeah, would this be the appropriate time then to put back the reconsideration of just the second mental health response team, no vehicle? Since I know it was on the, board. I know
Operational point, so we could, you could notate it and just point it back.
Okay.
So if they're supportive enough to do that.
Right. Question about your list, Mayor. Is there interest, how would you like the operational items that are in this list to show up over here?
Well, it's not gonna be a whole lot of those, but we need to indicate it somehow.
Okay, and I can do that. I just want
Maybe just initials or something.
Okay, so like your downtown manager position is gonna be on this side.
Yes, sir.
I'm on community safety. So it says, I know it's a CFP, remove bond funding of $895 from Farmers Road. I'm just curious where that came about.
So basically, as we were working on this list, CIP items, one-time dollars, there was a proposal in this year's budget to take the paving infrastructure sidewalk bond money of $895,000 toward that one-way entrance initiative. Now, what I came up with here was to say that we're not finished with our, but this is what I'm saying. We're not finished with our sidewalks. We only put $400,000 toward sidewalk completion. And you started out, you said the least walkable, we had to change that to second least walkable, right?
And we don't have
Right.
that either.
Right. So I was saying that one of the proposals could be to keep this from being a my district, your district thing, where there was a study done on this. It ranked the areas we need to address first. There was only $50,000 allocated or recommended in this budget toward what that study recommended. And $900,000 came out of our Parks and Rec bond, which I don't remember telling a soul when they were telling them to vote for it. That was a part of it. But what I'm saying is that the recommendation there would be to double down on our sidewalk and pedestrian crossings, where we just heard those folks the other day talking about the kids at 71st School Road and these crossing guards and those kind of things. And to go back to the study that we paid, put more money to it, because 50,000 is gonna go nowhere. And it had a recommendation that you could increase that to 250.
So pull it, remove the bond funding that was.
Bond money is used for certain things.
No, I get it, but I'm saying, it's saying remove that. So I was wondering where did that come from, to remove the eight
Recommendation.
from,
But we've heard all day that the
From-
2 cent didn't get anywhere.
right, from, what was the recommendation from?
Well, look, 2 cent had Farmers Road. Nobody supported the 2 cent fees. So then you got $900,000 tied up for something that's not supported.
No, it's not, that list is not supported, the increase is not supported. What I'm saying is, how did we remove the funding? You said it was, we agreed to it.
No, I didn't say we.
Oh, no, what did you say?
So Councilmember, what I'm saying is.
No, I'm
Farmers
asking
Road-
you, who?
Farmers Road had $895 and it had an additional 400 plus.
That was approved by the council.
No, it hadn't been approved, that's why it's back and forth.
Okay, all right.
Right. So-
But
And
you're
nobody-
suggesting that it
Nobody
be,
on council approved the $895,000 bond fund. It's just here that whatever we want to do with it, if they want to keep it at over there, then if you got.
but if we're removing it, it had to be put there. So that's what I'm,
This is not from staff, I just captured
I know.
a summary of our conversation.
Exactly.
And I didn't hear, unless you can correct me, one, there was no council item action to put the 895. It's in the recommended budget.
Okay,
So if this is adopted, then it is council action that puts it.
I got
So
you.
removing something that's not there is just a proposal, just like it's a proposal.
So, okay.
See what I'm
Well,
saying?
you can't
Like
remove something that's not there.
You're right, you're right. So it's not there, so it shouldn't be in the book. So this is why it's on here, saying that.
Saying to remove the bond funding.
That's in the proposal in the book. We hadn't accepted the proposal, so it's really not there. Track.
But you're saying remove it, even though it's not there yet. Okay, I got you.
Just a recommendation. All right, so, all right, so council, what else were we missing? The Black Voices Museum. The other day in this book, it shows K-Fit Theater, got $500,000. Civil War History Center, got $6.6 million. Black Voices, got $450,000.
Y'all.
So, yeah, initially, that's what they were, talking about the Black Voices. Oh, the History Center. Oh, don't get me started.
Mr. Mayor?
All right, so Black Voices, that will come out one-time dollars if we.
Yes, those that you mentioned, we gave $100,000 originally for, to get started on, was it the Civil War?
Getting the land plus $100,000.
And to do the study. Is $500,000 for the development work, or is that toward, not near construction? That's
No, so when I mentioned the Black Voices Museum, the $450 that the city and the county gave was the planning to get to this point. They're back now with the results of that, and they're asking for some more support. So the $350 proposal, the reason I reference Cape Theater is we can get with Robert and the Black Voices team, see how they want it, and you make it do it over 2 budgets like the Cape Theater. Then we do.
But that was for construction.
That's right, regardless, it was support for their.
Yes, absolutely.
Right.
And I think they asked for 750, not 350.
Right, so I'm saying 350, yes.
So do you want it on the list as 750 or 350?
It should be 350 because you're not spending next year's. No, it's you had an issue showing it, that you had it listed but unfunded. So we're just talking about this year.
Sure.
350 this year and it would be 350 next year. I put it in parentheses so that you can track how they got to 7.
Okay. Just making sure how you want to show it.
All right.
Mayor,
Yes, sir.
just a quick question. Brian, could you tell us like what the impact would be for pausing the shovel-ready project? And what is the least amount of money that would be necessary to at least keep it going? Because if it's just completely stopped, what's gonna happen is we're gonna end up spending a whole lot more money. And,
Yeah, so the funding to fully design the project's already been appropriated.
right, okay,
The money requested in this current budget would be for the right-of-way acquisition to construct the road. As far as deferring the project further, you just have a very large.
How much is the total? Like 7.1?
Yeah, the
6.5 million.
6.5.
So 895,000 will be right-of-way acquisition, but you don't have the other, where's the other money come from?
That was requested in future, I
Years.
think 28, 29.
Right,
Yeah.
like we were just talking about, showing it in future years.
right, but it is in the progress, so if we would have to stop that process. But what my thing is, what is the least amount to keep it going?
Well, right now, we're kind of at an impasse because we need the additional funding for the right-of-way.
And what that would be, is that the 1.2, or what is the?
That was the requested amount in the 27 budget.
Right, but that would be, that's the minimum that you would need to continue. Okay. That's all I want.
Mr. Mayor, could we adopt what we have right now if the numbers meet to be revenue neutral?
Well, to send direction back to staff to come back with how to get us to revenue neutral is what you're saying. They've got, they were throwing all this today. I guess they can come back with a proposal.
Mr. Yates, is this doable?
You are, I mean, it is, right now you have 109,000 more expenditure on the board than what you have ongoing funds for. If you take, it's doable if you take the penny off the list and the 2 pennies in capital, you eliminate those first, then these things you move around, then yes. To keep any of the items on the list that are on the 1 penny and the 2 penny, the 2 for capital, then no. So you start with the assumption that either you take the additional cuts we gave you the additional recommended changes this morning to balance, or the original half penny list, or the penny list on operations. That's a council decision. The 2 pennies on capital, take all those projects out of the equation first, then puts you flat-footed. Then you can reallocate, because it's just reallocation of existing resources. So yes, with the caveat that you have to first assume you're going to take the 2 penny reduction. So the 2 penny recommended list falls off the list.
Right.
So yes, that's what it'll take to get there.
So in other words, this 6.4 that we have.
Oh.
I think it's 6.4.
You're right.
6.430.
The 6.430 that we have identified for capital, that will keep us revenue neutral, what you're saying, correct?
It would keep you, if you put it to, if you take the list of the 2 pennies off the board, or if you did the 2 penny list with it.
The CIP items.
The CIP items.
What is that?
And most of those items we have already added back in, correct?
Well,
No, you haven't.
no, not
Not
particularly. So
The public safety ones we have added.
this list and the 2 penny list, what you're including in your savings, they are crossing over on top of each other.
That's what I thought.
Okay?
So some of the things that are on the 2 penny list, we have already taken off and put up here in the CIP.
I can tell you real quick, if you're going to put the $800,000,
Yeah, and you're unlocking 800,000.
if you unlock 800,000, then yes, some of these can be added back. Because you have 6.9 million
That's what I thought.
here in 46,
Taking my money.
And have 6.4 up here.
and you have, but again, some of what you use to get the 6.4 also is on the mayor's suggested list as savings that allow you to do the things on the mayor's
Okay,
list.
so like the single access neighborhoods, it was on this list for 50, and you said it was on that list for an increased amount.
No, what I'm saying
Is that
is,
one of the examples?
on your list, you had $5.7 million for Stadium View. On the 6.4 million,
Well, we only used 2.7. We didn't use the whole
2.7 million of the 6.4. But that's what I'm saying. Your list, this list right here, to achieve this list and do the tax rate, it doesn't balance. If you start with the tax rate. If you don't want to do the tax rate, then you have a loss of 4.8 million. This list adds back more than 4.8 million.
Okay, what's the difference in it?
It would, if you would give me like 15 minutes
Yeah.
and let us do the math, but the
Because if we need to add another $300,000 to fulfill this list out of the 4.8, we can sit here and do that in 10 minutes.
I don't think it's
I'm
300,000.
just saying.
Right, but you asked me the question.
15
I'm just
days.
telling
Well,
you,
how can we
there's
do it 15
duplications
days?
on both lists.
I don't
But you
understand.
have to start with an assumption that if you don't want a tax rate increase, you start at zero.
Yep.
Then you're building back from zero. So you've identified 6.4 of additional resources. The answer is you can do probably, if you wanted to do the 2 cent list, there's enough funding with the 6.4 billion that you saved to do that. I haven't gone through and taken this additional list and said, the question is, are all the 2 cent projects now off the board?
Right.
If that's the case, then this probably works. If you want the 2 cent list and this, the answer is no, they don't work.
But some of the 2 cent list items.
Some of these things, but not in the full extent probably, because your 6.9 list on the Fund 46, 6.9 million, it does, to make the math work. And on the operations side, kind of just using this as your rough scale, this would on the operations side, this still assumes you cut a penny out of operations, which we've given you 2 lists you can choose from. Places we would recommend doing that. But then to add back these things, you're still at a $100,000 deficit. Assuming you don't do the tax rate increase and you go ahead and take that list. One of the 2 options to get back to 2.4 million. So you can't do all the things on the 3 cent list. Capital and
Okay,
operating.
I don't want you to get confused about them going to 3 cent list and 2 cent list. We talked about
But you asked me.
what's on the board and what is on the 2 cent list. Some of the stuff that's on the board and what's on the 2 cent list are duplicates. Is what you're saying.
And some of the stuff on 2 cent list is not gonna be on.
It's not gonna be on the 2 cent list, exactly.
Well, and I think, so you asked me if it was doable.
Mhm.
The question is, it depends on what doable
Two
means.
cent list. Is that what you're saying?
If the council wants to give us direction to help to determine how you want to balance it, right now you talked about revenue. You've given us consensus on revenue. You have given us very little, if any, consensus on, except for the 26,000. I think we're pretty good on the $26,000 for the employees, the resident survey.
Makerspace, we gave you direction.
Well, it wasn't clear if that was 450 or.
All right, let's take a vote on the makerspace so he can, get clear on that. Show of hands to move or reappropriate the 1.6 on the makerspace. Be used for other items.
I don't know.
Quick question.
Yes, just that.
Didn't we do 400 and something?
Yesterday.
Today?
Yeah.
But
And
he
if
said
you
it
take-
wasn't
Clear.
It wasn't clear.
So we're
Well,
trying to clear.
the 450
If you
was
take the
clear. It was the
1.6,
1.2.
Trying to
It's
clarify the
dead.
rest of it.
Yes, the 450 from yesterday would do parking lot drainage improvements. 1.2.
It's gonna be the building.
The 1.2 stops the project.
Oh, no,
Or just
not
pause.
doing that.
Stops the project. You're
All right.
never going.
Show of hands.
Some money. Is it gonna give us money?
All right, that's okay. All right.
Who, opposition, please, raise high. Thank you. So,
All right.
okay, thank you.
All right.
So now that puts 1.6, so that was back to your 6.4. That was included in your 6.4. If you could take a break, Mayor, for about 15 minutes or 20 minutes, I can give you the answer to that question.
Recess. All right, so we'll take a recess.
Wow, wow.
Yes,
You're
all
ready?
right. Please come back to order.
Thank you.
Mr. Yates.
I'm waiting to get the one-time total back from the team.
Is that what that one up there is, one-time total?
Yes, well, that's the crossover, the net difference between the original list that's underneath that board and the things that were counted on the thing that what Mayor gave us this morning. There are duplicates on the savings side, so I unwound the duplicates.
I'm saying that the one up there is supposed to be.
One
Yeah,
time.
so that's additional
One
resources
time.
one time, and that's what I'm trying to get from the team. They're going through the mayor's.
I'm making sure I.
Yeah, no, I thank you for the question. We're trying to unwind it too, so it's a little bit like unwinding a plate of spaghetti. So, your savings, you identified doing 3% instead of 4%. You identified keeping at 4% instead of doing 5%. You identified reducing the mental health by one vehicle plus one team. You identified unfreezing 8 PD officers. You identified the downtown manager. You identified route expansion, which is an ongoing cost. And you identified drones as first responder, which is an ongoing cost. What's not on here is the additional money for camera network. But your list this morning didn't have dollar value on that, so we just did the DFR at this point. At the end, at the total, it's a net add of $109,000 of cost. So if you were to add a camera network and say the camera network was $300,000, that would make this number 409.
But the camera network is not an ongoing cost of 300,000.
What is on the list for the half penny is an ongoing cost.
So it's
The one penny operations list is the maintenance of the camera network.
so the camera network costs of 300,000, and you're telling me the maintenance every year is 300,000.
Yes, sir. Every camera comes with maintenance costs.
Right, but it's at the same level of the original cost of the camera, annually, recurring. If you're saying 300,000 adds the camera, right?
No, I'm saying 300,000 doesn't add the camera.
It's just the cost of
ongoing
services.
cost.
Okay.
So when we went through and said, on your list, you had stadium view, you had maker space fully eliminated, and a couple of those items on there. So what we said, basically what you were left with is legacy money, $1 million, and the fund balance usage. So non-crossover one time from your list to the list we were working on yesterday was the $2 million. The one-time items that you've identified over here is $1 million. So
Mr. Mayor, if I may.
all of these different pieces put together, and they are $1,185,000. So your net difference in that case,
$895.
yeah. So
15.
That's right.
15.
okay, I'll believe
Speed
you.
and calculator.
All right. So
You transfer.
859, 895.
sorry. So I toss in schools when you're writing on the board, you will make most
There you
mistakes.
go. There you go.
895. Now, if you wanted the thing to remember is if you wanted to also then take out 2 pennies, one-time funding, that value is 4.8 million. Okay.
Yep.
So that is, you said the things you want to add. To do the CIP, everything, that is the value of the projects that are on that list. On the operational side, you have 2.4 million. Because this structure still leaves those 2 amounts, just for clarity, unaddressed. Okay, so I just don't want you to, in your minds, think you've got a bonus of 1.185. Can, absolutely. It's just a matter of telling us what, out of the 4.8 million in the capital, of the 2 pennies went to, and of the 2.4, and yes, this plan would reallocate the 895.
Excuse me.
Yes, sir.
Does the assumption of what you just said about the 2 pennies assume that everything that's on this list stays on this list as you have it calculated?
It would.
Right. So although there were some changes to these things based on those things, did you factor that into your
The
numbers?
only changes you had on there was the 895. You reallocated 895 to sidewalks and bike lanes in your list.
No,
Took my money.
you already had 500,000 there for it. It was just adding another 500,000. So it was not putting the whole 895 there. And you had 1.2 for that. So there was still an additional 400,000.
Right, but my understanding, and I don't believe there was consensus direction, and your sheet starts with the assumption that all of those fall to zero. The 4.8 million to support that goes to zero.
Right.
Right? So the only thing you would have left is the 895 in bond funding.
That can be reallocated. Okay. Because I thought what you were saying was that you assume that you want to do all of these, so it leaves you at 4.8.
No, so what I'm saying is that to make this true,
Right.
you have to still take out that whole list.
I understand.
And to make this true, you still have to take either list one we provided you yesterday, list two, or some version of another list that yields that savings.
All right. Councilmember McMillan had a question.
Yeah, I just want to preface, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I want to preface my statement with saying this is not an attack on you, Mayor Colvin. This is an attempt to clarify our process as we come to what I hope is the close to today. I want to name that we have not reached consensus on this list, nor have we reached consensus on many of the items on this list. And then also ask you where in this process we will get into a detailed discussion about consensus on these items.
So we're going to, at some point, once we understand the numbers, which is what he's explaining now, we're going to take a consensus to see if this scenario has the support of the board. Now, I don't know what you mean exactly as far as detail, but this is the sixth budget meeting. We've been in detail beyond.
I can clarify.
Beyond detail. So if it is to re-debate and to make our positions on, I guess if there's room for that, if none of this is supported. But what we do know today is that they've done an incredible job being able to pivot on scenarios. So the goal today is to give them direction like the manager's asked for since the first meeting. Tell me what you want. That's what we're trying to do. Just tell them what we want, which is no taxes. We still want to try to do these things. We still want to try to balance our budget, which we know we have to do. So that's the goal with the consensus. Now, in terms of level of detail, you can explain that.
Yeah, I appreciate that. So I don't know if the public can understand what happened in the room, but I think there's a lot of people listening that may not understand that the list that you gave us this morning was not a list that was based on consensus. It was based on your personal.
And if it was based on, and if I assumed it had consensus, we wouldn't be talking about it. So it's a proposal.
Let me finish, please.
Right.
Let me finish. So it's a proposal. What you're saying. It's a proposal from one person out of 10.
Out of the information that you've had. So you didn't spend time to read it.
Please listen, sir.
Yes, sir. We got people whose work
Please
schedule
listen
being
to me.
impacted, right?
Please listen
So
to
we
me.
understand you don't agree, but bring it to a close.
Please listen to me, okay? You're one person of 10, and I respect the staff, but the staff is having a conversation about what one person brought, right? What I'm asking, sir, is I'm requesting that before we continue a detailed conversation on numbers based on your recommendations, one of 10, that we reach some level of consensus on what we're talking about.
Right. Well,
That's a process-oriented request.
I appreciate that, Councilman McMillan, and we have to understand what it is we're getting consensus on. The information that I have was the same information that you've had for the last.
But I didn't recommend 3% versus
No, let me clarify, sir.
I didn't recommend,
You could have
and I
spent,
didn't recommend.
if you would have spent half the time reading your material, right? And put the time in to giving the council a proposal of what your version is, then we could be talking about your list.
So
But
can I
we're not.
clarify?
So
No,
right now,
Mr. Reconvened, I won't allow that, sir.
And then.
I'm saying I don't agree with what you proposed, and I think you should seek
We're gonna take a
consensus before we
consensus
all
on it.
move
Yes,
on
sir,
what
but
you
we had to have
proposed.
them see if it was practical. So that's what the 15-minute break was for. So try to keep up with it. Councilman Harris.
If I can just give some clarity from myself. We all knew that we were getting ready to go into the budget. Before we ever had our first budget, I sent an email out. I sent an email out with the things that I thought I wanted to see changed. If you go back through your email, you will see it. I also started out and told you that I was for 0 tax increase. And then I've sent then we had another meeting and I came right back, and that's how we even talked about the 26,000. I gave a couple of more items. That is the same thing, other than I didn't have it done like this. I did the same thing, other than I just didn't do this. So everyone has an opportunity of the years that I've done this to either send it through an email, have a discussion, or you may do this. Just saying that opportunity is for everyone.
Tina, if I may,
Councilman Perkins.
you didn't bring yours in and have a discussion with Jeff directly in front of all of us based on your recommendation.
But I
you
did
respect
have
the
my
board.
discussion with them as they stood up with all the council.
Okay.
And that's when we were doing it over in that room.
And now's the time where we should be reaching consensus on
Well,
these
it's
things. We're
Councilman
wasting
Miller. If
time.
you stop
is what I'm
interrupting, we're
saying.
trying to get to a consensus because we need to move it forward.
Your process
You don't
doesn't lead us to
no, Well, that's
consensus.
your opinion. So if you got a consensus, then back.
Tell me where your process
Okay, wait,
is.
Councilman, who's the next person to speak? Councilmember first.
Quick question, is, what you just outlined, is that indicated in what we asked about these services and the 1 cent operational? Is that included in there or not? Yes.
No, sir. So.
Okay, so if we go with
This
this,
exercise was-
then this will be null and void. We won't be able to do any of these services that we said was important and critical.
No, it started out with that.
If
No, that's what I'm asking. So these are all in that?
we gave you 2 options. Yes.
Okay.
Well, no, I'm sorry. No, sir.
Hearing what's working.
This
Right,
assumes,
so it's not in
this
there.
assumes you start with 0 increase. The 0 increase encompasses all the things on that list. So encompasses not doing them. You need them, you need
Not
the
doing
penny
it, right.
to do those. Or we gave you about 1.9 million this morning of others that if you want to
Right,
accept
got that.
those cuts in
Got
lieu of,
Okay.
you could do about 2/3 of that list. And those things.
Okay.
But no, sir, this does not
But-
address the penny reduction items at all.
So this just addresses these parking lot items?
Yes,
Okay. And
I just
it
wanna point
excludes,
sir. Mayor, we left off,
So-
we left off the net impact of the stadium fee reduction.
so what we said in the beginning as far as these being important and want to be included are not included. So if we would approve this, we would be out of all of this. That's
So this
great.
is surplus fund.
And my last one is, can I add, that second entrance to this list?
Councilmember, Ferguson, that's gonna be contrary to redirecting the money from the second entrance to this, if that's approved. So I'll hit this first and then we'll come to that, because this was the proposal that I brought.
Right,
You
that
can
you-
do your proposal.
Yeah, but I would like to include in
But
it, so.
we can't do that in
Oh,
your
we can't
mind
add
because
to
it
it?
factors that
Oh,
money
we
in on it.
can't add to it because
Yeah,
it's
because
yours.
if you take the money from one. All right, so quick question, that was nice, try.
No, I'm
So, Mr. Jeff, can you clarify what you just wrote on the board?
Yes, sir. So
saying.
the net change started with the one time, and I apologize. They gave me the expenditure side, not the reduction side. So we had the 2 million, that's from the one-time list, that's not crossover fees. That is $1,080,000 of fund balance, $1 million of vacancy savings from this year. For ads that you have on the list you gave us this morning, the ads are 1.185. The deduct being stadium view, the net then leaves you with 6,885 of one-time funding. That leaves you whatever your deducts are. So your deduct in this case is the 5.7. So you have no money for the 5.7, and you still have to dispose of the $4.8 million parking fee, $4.8 million gap that is on the CIP list that is there. So
So are any of those items on that list that he just referenced?
The only items that you had that crossed over between those two are parking, are the sidewalks, if whatever you did with sidewalks and bike lanes
On the penny list?
on the penny list. Because you reduced one project, you said reallocate $895,000 of bond money on your list to,
No, I understand that. So what I'm asking is that the items that are on the, what we call, where's the penny?
the capital pennies. The two pennies of capital.
No, the operation.
The operations? No, sir, there's no crossover.
There's no crossover.
From the this, you still have to dispose of now $2,509,990.
Right.
With all these net changes, your total gap, if you wanted to do everything, you're sitting at.
Where's the Where's the
I
maker
just gave y'all 2 million. We've been good.
Maker space money
Yes.
is this amount.
Up in this, where,
Well,
I don't see it in
So
here.
the best way to do this. Sorry, we're kind of working this on the fly.
So, Mr. Jeff, while you're doing that, let me ask you a question. When PD pays site rental rent, to write $170,000 check, that rent payment is good until 12 months from now when it's due again. Is that right?
Sure.
Okay.
We pay it
All
monthly,
right,
probably,
all
or
right.
quarterly,
Or you can
something.
pay it yearly.
Some
You write
version.
$170,000 check and it's paid for the whole year. Why is that operational if it can pay it till next
Because it's a
budget?
lease.
Okay, so how?
So a
But if it's
lease is
one-time-
an
But if it's a
operating-
one-time
not-
lease, how are you gonna break it?
It is not a one-time lease. That's why we said,
So why is it on this list if it's a lease?
because the list that's on there, that is our recommendation for operating budget.
No, my question is, if it's a lease, which means that you're bound by it, then how can it be a possibility of being eliminated? Provided on this list?
We didn't provide that. When we went to the departments and said, you got a 10-pound bag, and we asked them, you've got 12 pounds of stuff. We asked the departments, what above the 10-pound limit would you be able to say, if you had to do without, you could do it? That list, all of the departments which were listed on there were the ones that they gave up. Now, clearly, some of that on the list are things that they would do without at great peril. And that could be one of the ones that's what the.
Well, I'm
police
not talking about
department-
peril right now, I'm talking legality, right? So if it's a lease, like he said, and it needs to be considered as operational cost, how can you cut it? So what's so the lease is contingent upon what, funding the next year?
Funding in next year.
So if you wrote a check for $107,000 and it paid it for this year until next year's budget, is it structurally incorrect to do that out of this $6.5 million since it's paid for the whole year?
If you ask the LGC, they will tell you that a lease is an operating cost. The differentiation, the LGC makes two buckets, capital and operating. And there's not a differentiation between the third option or any of those other options.
But all of it's contingent upon the next year's budget approval, right? So some other council can come in and say, I don't want to do this anymore. And that provides, the contract provides an out for that. Right?
So to your question, Mayor Pro Tem, you had one time this morning, the net of what is on the mayor's list of one-time items, pluses and minuses across the board, is $4.5 million of savings. So the net that you have at the end of the day is $6,595.
So we have 6.6 in CIP and we're deficit of 2.4,
Yes, sir.
according to everything that we gave you.
However, some of the stuff on this list is like travel for the year. You mean if you allocate the money for the travel for the year, that's gotta be an ongoing revenue attached item?
Yes, sir, because it is operational nature. And when you do that, you're setting yourself up for next year to have a gap.
I understand, but you may have a council that says we don't want to travel to all countries. So, are you telling me none of that? So, we asked LGC, none of this is an acceptable expense that can be decided year by year. I understand staff and payroll.
You absolutely have the ability to decide year by year, so let's start with that. Okay. However, I'm telling you what the LGC will say. Okay, that's their definition. If you would like to fund it with one-time items, you're going to create that gap next year.
If you choose to go to the same amount of conference. or if that council wants to continue.
It'll be an effective budget reduction next year. So if you want to fund ongoing items, because remember, what is in that list is current services, not additional. That list is their current services at the available revenue with a 1 penny increase. So that isn't, we said we want to go to more to continue to do things we've always done. So Mayor, this just, in your scenario, it's as if you're funding it with a one-time item and now we'd have to cut it again. So you will be right back here next year, looking at the police chief, looking at the fire chief, saying, you're going to cut one-time travel. Or how are you going to fund that travel, right? You can absolutely fund it with one-time funding. It's not recommended, but it's a council decision.
Inflation, you're gonna be.
But you are going to set yourself up next year, because you're not growing fast enough, to have that discussion plus some. Follow me? So you can absolutely, if you want to use this 6.5 to offset operations, you may raise the interest of the LGC. I can't tell you for certain. And your audit for 2027.
Paying for on-call asphalt repair. That's gonna raise the LGC. So you mean that you gotta have a continuation budget to pay for a sidearm trimmer?
If it's operational in nature, the one-time items on there, you can. The equipment, you can absolutely pull off, buy that one time. Okay? But again, the things that are ongoing in nature, spot repair on asphalt, in and of itself, is not a capitalizable item, not capital expenditure. Spot repair is a maintenance item.
And this clearly says small equipment, one-time purchase.
That's correct. So you can add all the equipment.
Why is that even on?
Because there wasn't funding on the cap, because you had 2 cent increase on the capital.
Mm-hmm.
So then if you want to move that over to the capital, you can. So make it 2 cents and a quarter on the capital.
So a question for you, when you asked all of the budget, all of the departments to get their budget within a target, what's the target for the city manager? Because you got OCS under yours, so it's kind of not all yours necessarily. Why is OCS under the city manager?
Didn't we give that to you? Gave that to you this morning. So the OCS is part of the manager's office because that's where it was set up at. Okay. If you want to see OCS,
I think you should have a separate line item like police and fire, since it's being treated the same. You can track it, so you don't accidentally cut it. Like if you say cut by 10% city manager's budget, that affects them too, right?
it would affect. We don't do universal across the board cuts.
So
we don't go to departments to say, you're going to give us a 10% reduction.
Now you told us that in the presentation that you went to departments and said, how can you reduce your budget on X?
No, sir. What we said was, we have $213 million of revenue. Historically, police department, you represent 40% of that total revenue. So 40% of our available revenue, then police department, give us a budget. After we back out personnel, what is it that you can do at that level of funding? We didn't go to the police department.
Isn't that the same thing, no? 40% of 213 means you got to keep your budget within
80 minutes. It's not a percentage reduction. It's a reduction to fit within the revenue. So the other option is you can go back and tell the departments, give us 95% of what you had last year. Give me a 5% reduction. That is not a scalpel, that is a broadsword. When you do it the way we did it, we ensure that the vast majority of operations is maintained without impacting negatively cutting people. Because the first task is we didn't want to cut people, right? Prioritize employees, then work with the available options. The departments gave us recommendations. What you have in the SL2 list, or the current services funded with the 1 penny, are of all the cuts the departments gave us, these were the 2.4 million. And we said, we don't believe we should cut. So we didn't have enough revenue. So we gave you the recommendation for a penny. It's not that we are recommending cutting them. We are recommending you fund them with an additional penny. Okay.
Can I have a question while you mention that, Mr. Yates?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, thank you. I have 3 questions. One, what time do we plan on wrapping up today? 2, what do we plan on accomplishing in the time that we have left today? And then 3, when will we have discussions that get us to consensus on the items that are on the board? Those are my 3 questions.
If they're addressed to me, plan on wrapping up. I wanted to do 20 minutes ago. I think we had valid questions because math is changing as he's explaining that. And so we wanted to make sure that we're clear on what we're voting on, or if there is a vote or consensus to these suggestions. Question 2, that was time to wrap it up, and when are we voting? What
are we going to accomplish between now and
then? So hopefully the goal is to leave here with enough direction for them to come back to say the budget that I heard the council say, guys, we got to find a way to not cut these things or to separate what's operational and what could be considered one time. Now we know we're dealing with $6.5 million of one-time availability. Are you able with that then to, let's say, instead of you needing to fund your CIP at 4%, take a lump sum and pay something off that will be coming up this year so that you don't throw your projects off, and maybe fund that at 3.5%, which creates some operational recurring capacity. So I think the goal is to leave here so that he's got enough of what we are trying to do to then come back at the next budget meeting, hopefully with a solution that says that you can consider this.
My 3rd question. When are we going to talk through consensus on items that are listed?
Just a little bit, so we make sure we understand what we.
I'm sitting here, Mr. Mayor, and I'm trying to think where we're going. And I'm surprised by some of the questions that have been proposed today. And on one hand, you say, this is your recommendation. This is council's budget. This is everybody else's recommendations. You can't talk about something bad if you ain't bringing anything at all. I've been going through these books for a week and a half to try to find a balanced budget that we took consensus of on what we need to do. If you don't have anything good to say about the process that we're making and have some pertinent input on how we get there, then dig in the books and come back to the next meeting so we'll know where we're going, how we're going to vote, and how we're going to get there, and when the meetings are going to end. But until we get that done, we're going to have meeting after meeting after meeting until we get there. I try to bring proposals, and I open minds to the public for everybody to hear, like I did yesterday. What do we do for 2.5%? And don't give them anything on the 401k. You have to bring something to the table to get a response from your colleagues to see whether it's acceptable or not. That's how we get to an end result. But Mr. Gates, my question is parking part of the operational or CIP? Operation. What would happen if we increased special event parking from $5 to $10? How much money in a year would that increase? And what would happen if we increased the parking deck fees? Monthly rent.
I think that what we said on this list this morning, one of the options was to increase revenue on parking revenue by $250,000.
Where's that at?
It's on this
The
list.
additional balancing options this morning we gave you. And I can run through those again real quick, if you will, because these are some alternatives to the half penny list.
Oh, I see it. Okay.
We said that we could take a 50% reduction in downtown events. We could take reallocation and work with the chief to reallocate $287,000 within his technology budget. We could work on parking revenue of an additional $250,000, which is about half of what the general fund pays. We could add about $147,000 for transit by doing a quarter increase, give or take. Then a council discretionary funding reserve. We had some money set aside for some time. We knew you would have some parking lot items, so we set aside some capacity in the budget for that. Resident survey, take that off the board, and then we would propose, or we could, not proposing it, we could, by managing our hiring, probably eke out another $600,000 in vacancy savings.
I'm glad you brought that up, and I'm glad I asked that question. So if we were to do the math and take off this additional balancing options take off the police technology, and take off the increase in transit, that would put us close to 1.4. Would that be in the reduction in the 2.4 that you have on there for operations? Which means we will only need for us to look for $1 million instead of 2.4.
If, so what you're asking, let me be sure I understand the question.
You have 1.9.
We have 1.9.
If you could take off the police technology, which is 287,000. If you was to take off the transit, which is 147. About 450. That gives us 1.5 almost. Would you deduct that from the 2.4? That means now we only need to find 900,000?
Yes, sir, that'd be correct. Well, yes, sir, that'd be correct. 2.4.
That's how we get it.
In following the thought process that we had in the CIP meeting the other day, I just have a question, and I guess Tiffany's still back there because she's behind me. I think I heard you say the buses that you have ordered will not arrive until September of 27. That is next year's budget cycle. So to me, does it make sense to include the route expansion when, if we follow the thought process of, finish what we start? I mean, we could certainly, she's already begun the work, identifying the property. Would that delay, and I'm asking you because you're the expert in the room, and I always turn to the expert in the room. Does that, us not putting that money in there, would it, can you use that money this year? I guess that's my real dark question. Did you hear her answer?
No, I want to hear it. Say it again.
I asked, would that $250,000 be beneficial to her in this budget cycle?
So when you were saying that you could rearrange some routes, there's no additional cost to you for that? Okay.
So now we're down to $650,000.
Well, no, the 250 route expansion, you still had a net increase over the 2.4. So, yeah, some part of the route expansion would reduce that, yes, but not all. So your net savings is only about 100 and what is the difference between 250 and 109? So 140.
Now we're down to 750.
A quarter increase. The quarter increase was $147,000.
Did you factor that into your answer you just gave him?
No.
No, sir, because he said don't do the rate increase.
Don't do that. I said don't do that.
Yeah.
Well, let me get it straight. So now we're down to $750,000 for operation. We're good on CIP. Now we're down to $750 on operation.
Minus this,
Minus what?
the operation that we said at the beginning of the meeting that we were.
No, that's not operation.
1 cent.
He's talking about this. The additional stuff is what he's talking about.
Right. No, I'm just saying that is without the 1 cent, right?
Right.
Without anything that's on the 1 cent piece. That we said was critical. Okay, gotcha. That's all.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I got a couple questions for Director Neal. We had talked about, and I can't remember, well, number one, what's the current rate for fares?
$1.25 one ride, $3 a day.
So this, Mr. Yates, this is talking about a quarter increase, so we're going to 150? Is that what we're talking about?
That would be what? Yes,
Potentially.
20% increase.
And then for modification, I just can't remember, and I should know this, but we had talked about going to a cashless pay system. Is that funded this year, already in the budget, or?
We already have the funding on the books for that, so we don't need additional funding.
Okay. And then, so then to add this funding per this paper we're at it today, we're just going from a 1.25 to 150, and then we're going to the cashless. Okay. I'm good with that. Thank you for the clarification.
We can't just increase one fare. Can't just increase one fare.
That wasn't an option. I took that off of this. That wasn't an option.
All right, so question for you, Mr. Yates. Are you able to distinguish between what's actual one-time costs on this 1 penny sheet and what's not per our conversation that we just had? Do we need to get PB Myers on the phone to ask them how they would do that?
That's, we can do that, and it's really just the equipment.
Or at least, right, at least.
That's our lease is operational.
All right, we're down to 750, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
All right, so, yes, sir.
Yeah, I just want to be clear on on this 1 penny. I know but at the top of the meeting, we were referencing the critical need for these things. So with what we've outlined up here, it would not include anything on this list. It would not include
What I believe, if I'm correct, please correct me if I'm wrong. What I believe is that the suggestion is that they're accepting everything on the alternative recommendation list from this morning
okay.
and accept no rate increase on transit and no,
This is the alternative recommendation.
right, here it is. The not changing the technology for the police department. And then, I think that was it, right?
That was it.
So,
Additional balancing options.
right, so it would add back everything on the half penny list, except now you still need, to the Mayor Pro Tem's point, and I did the math, so thank you for giving me a second to do the math.
Take that one.
746,
Gotcha, I'm
490
just,
Now we need 746, 190.
of the one-time items that the mayor is referring to. You have a sidearm trimmer, which is $20,000. The rest of it, I believe, is ongoing.
Now we're down to 725.
So you can take 726, 490.
Now we're down to 725.
Okay, so even the smoke alarms, 116,000, that you burn smoke alarms, carbon monoxide alarms, if you write a check for that, that's not, you gotta put that in there for next year, getting that equipment, smoke alarm, smoke detector.
It's not in our facilities. It's a program that if you only want to do the program one time, that is fine.
I'm not saying that. What we're trying to do now.
But you're only funding it one time.
I know, but we're trying to talk about money for the next 12 months. So my question is, are you saying that creates a structural deficit to go ahead and buy a year's worth of smoke detectors and carbon monoxide? That's $160,000.
It creates only to the extent that council expects that to be an ongoing program.
But it's not LGC's not gonna get upset when we bought smoke detectors with extra fund balance.
It will. It is
What we've done in the past is that we get cute and we say it's a pilot program. And it's a one time. So next year, it would be a new initiative with such as it is that you have to put in, but absolute. And if that's 116, then that could come off of the capital side. And
That's about $20,000 in the equipment. Smoke alarms and seal, I think it might be 30,
Yeah.
between 20 and
To the
30,000.
point,
We got 66,000 for small equipment, one-time supplies, and 19,000 for travel. So I'm saying you write them a check and let them,
but the LGC will recognize that as an operating cost because you can't capitalize a smoke detector.
No, you can't.
all right. Councilmember, you know, like, all right, council? So it's a good place to leave it. I think we're down to what, 700?
726,000, Mr. Mayor.
Looking at the list of buckets, there is what Jeff showed on the additional balancing options you were just looking at, is reduction in funding for New Year's Eve, and reduction in funding for next year for Juneteenth. Is that?
But we're still not talking about one time. So if council wanted to add that back from the one-time money, you certainly don't have to do a contract with Juneteenth and with the New Year's Festival. That can be an annual decision. Is that right?
I can find half of it.
Well, I'm trying to just get clarity. Are y'all accepting of that service reduction for this?
Possibly, but what I'm saying to you is if council wanted to, just like we did the first year we entered in, because we don't have a contract to say we've got to do a Juneteenth year after year. If the council wanted to add that back out of this 6.5 mil, they have the option to do that. Is that right?
I think you would.
Okay.
The only question I would ask you, Mayor, for us to start preparing for the next meeting is is it your contention or your suggestion that there's then consensus around this list for us to move forward with
I'm
this?
about to ask that vote, right?
Okay, perfect. Thank you, sir.
So that's where we were headed. So, council, were you tracking that? So,
Yeah.
And then you've got, the 500,000 for council parking lot, which is part of the gap that we're trying to close, right? So
No, that was
you're just
money we were
eliminating-
putting to the, yes, that was available resource, because knowing that you, like, council typically has ads, we kept back some funding in the budget for you to be able to make ads, so now we're at the point where you can make
That we
ads.
can put towards the 725?
500,000 already included. Back then, right? And so the gap you're trying to close, I don't know if it's still 600.
It is.
It is still
It is.
726.
But you got 137 that you can pay at a one-time money for if you choose, if council chooses to do Juneteenth and what you call it. That doesn't have to be operational.
So you don't want Juneteenth to be operational, you're gonna use it as one-time funding and subtract 137 from the 726?
What he's saying is that it's possible because you don't have a contract with anybody. You know what I mean?
Why is it on here then?
That's what I'm trying to.
Mr. Mayor.
Because when it's something we already do, and something the council has said we do every year, now to come behind it and say, we're not gonna do everything that we do year to year, because we contract for it year to year, that is going to create it's gonna create a gap every year. We're gonna be back having this conversation about funding
Right, but isn't that money that you can take out of the general fund if those are things that you're using for events for the entire city instead of labeling it as operational?
It's the same bucket of money.
It may be the same bucket of money, but at least the LGC won't get on us when we're trying to
No, sir,
find
it
money.
comes from your current revenue money. So what you're suggesting is every year we use our savings account to pay for an ongoing bill.
That you are anticipating, that's not contractually
Right.
agreed to.
You don't know.
That's fine.
Because you don't know that you're gonna have that every year.
If you don't want to do that, if you don't want to commit to doing that year after year,
Okay,
then
I got that, Jeff. The point we're trying to make today is, can we take this 137 and use it as a CIP
That says
and
possible.
subtract it from the operation?
you certainly can. And next year you will not have a funding source for it.
Gotcha. So let's subtract that from the
Next year, the
137.
economy of gas may be $2. Alan, you may come in here and next year you're gonna say, we didn't raise taxes last year, we need 5 cents this year, and the council may agree with you, right? So it's hard to
Mayor Pro
anticipate what the vibe is gonna
Mayor
be.
Pro Tem, can you make those,
Fair say?
It is.
allow everybody to come to consensus on that type of suggestion? We're not all in agreement with it. We'll put that out.
The reason I say that is because we're trying to get to zero balance.
But remember, it's just, that's your
You're
opinion.
trying to get to
It's a whole
zero
board.
balance.
We
I'm
gotta-
tracking, y'all. I'm tracking. I got you. I'm tracking.
All right.
I have a question around yours specifically,
Yes, ma'am.
okay, because it's new. I think it's new. I mean, I've heard you say it.
Uh-huh.
Under your economic and workforce development items, you've got one listed, expand general contractor license, electricians and HVAC training program. Can you tell me what's different? I know that Fayetteville Tech just opened that big arm of exactly, now not the general contractors as much, but around the
Chris,
the
follow
service. So I would like to,
The other room was saying.
Okay, so-
and, well, go ahead and I'll ask the next question.
So that program, he can speak to how many people have attended it, Derek kind of runs it, and how many general contractors have come out of it. So these are guys who've been doing the work, but didn't have it. Hey, Chris, we're talking about the general contracting licensing class. How many people, has gone through it and become licensed GC? Ballparkish.
I'd have to look that up, but it got way more successful in the second 2 years as opposed to the first year as people were ramping up to go through it. So that was a program we did for 3 years with our American Rescue Plan funds, and Jody's got the memo right here. So, where's that? General contractors. So it had 180 total folks enrolled in the class, and 22 of them came out as licensed general contractors, 18 of which were minority and women-owned businesses.
And so, yeah, it's good. And with the GC requirement comes a capital requirement, like you gotta have a certain net worth. So some of them could have passed the test and it could be a financial barrier, right? And so the reason I say that about electricians, as you're building up And we're on this tune about keeping more of the work local as we build this stuff. And you build in capacity, electricians and HVAC was a good add-on, you know, and speaking to Derek and to the FTC professor who said it was an easy add-on, you know, I wanted to make sure it was tracked. So that's.
So I guess my question was, is this not an opportunity for us to partner more with FTCC rather than spending the money to stand up more on our side?
We do partner with them.
Okay.
But they don't do it for free.
Okay. Well, that was ultimately what my question was.
Yeah, they teach it, but they gotta pay the professor who does it. Chris, you know how much that costs?
The last 3 years we did it. Right now we're projecting about $20,000 annually to continue doing that at the scale we're doing right now.
But I mean, 22 of 180 is only 8.5%. So.
What? They have 22 new business owners with license capabilities.
But are they all going to be business owners? I mean, I guess I'm just theoretically, that's what I just needed clarification because I think it was it's something new that we haven't really talked about. And my other concern on your list or questions around, I have no problem with personally with the next generation workforce partnership with FCEDC, that money. I do have some concern over the festival at 200,000 for a number of reasons. Every board I've ever been on since 1991 forward has had to have some buy-in. You had to come with some skin in the game and raised money and proved that you were going to be fiduciaries of the money that you received. And that's a lot more money than other partnerships with city organizations. So my concern around that number is a little bit of a concern because of the amount of money we're talking about in this budget environment.
So thought process, I think, good point. You may remember this better than anybody.
Probably whatever you're going to say, age me.
Man, they used to write a check for the Fayetteville Symphony, all right? And they used to, Dogwood would come year after year and get $90,000 or $100,000 worth of free service.
Fayetteville once and for all, way back.
Man, this was Fayetteville Next is a city board commission. And I think that I wasn't here when they made the presentation and the request. I put it off on the tracker because I think it was presented and it got support, right? Right. And so it doesn't mean anything without funding. And there is a history of us funding or community events being funded.
My concern was when they were asked multiple times how much money they had raised, they had gotten pledges, he said, pretty much like, I think around $20,000. So 80, okay. So you got 80,000 in pledges against a $500,000 budget was what they presented that night. When we asked them to lower that amount, they said 350. So now I'm just questioning how we went from.
Well, I pulled it from a council action. Right. I wasn't here. Y'all, everything came out with consensus. And that's where it came from.
It was kind of to let them, I thought what we would see was them make an effort to raise funds and come back to us with funds in hand, and then we would discuss further. But
Councilman Davis, did you like him?
Yeah. My question is to shoot in reference or someone, y'all. In reference, we don't have a contract for the Juneteenth and all those type of items. So what is in the Cool Springs contract?
Cool Springs has a base contract to manage MST and to stand up the arts entertainment district. We contract with them to produce separately New Year's Eve and Juneteenth. The consensus around the 910 Fest was to bring it back during budget season. And that's what we've done. I'm just saying that.
I was talking about Juneteenth.
So it'd be a separate contract.
So when you say contract, is it not, it's just one time each year? You renew the contract for the Juneteenth?
Yes.
So you're saying that if we do whatever Mayor Pro Tem said, we won't have the money for it next year? Is that what you're saying?
So this is what it looks like. We're putting the budget together. Council has never suggested that we were not going to do the New Year's Eve. And so we budget in our base budget the continuation of that. And we say it's gonna be out of one-time funds, again, we can figure that out this year. But when we're here next year, is it the anticipation of council that there will be every year money in the manager's base recommended budget for these events? That's why it's here. If we unlock it, we're fine with that. We're fine with you making a value judgment every year, because that's what you do with the budget. But when we are preparing the budget, there are things that we continually do and have done ever since it started. Juneteenth was one, and New Year's Eve was other, but it's really, that's just a budget piece. So as the mayor had said, if you want to look at it as a one-time expense, we can definitely do that. There's no issues there.
Councilman Perks.
Thank you, Mayor. So as I'm looking at and hearing everything, we're reducing what we're recommended to increase to our employees, right, by 1%. Okay, so we're reducing our employee pay. We're exempting a lot of
Can we have a consensus?
critical pieces in lieu of adding things that we as a council have not agreed with, lumping it together and trying to pass it as one piece. I just don't think that's.
So Council President, that's not right. So you're looking at the list, so stop looking at the 1 and 2. So he's already come up with other suggestions, which we've been working off of that.
I got you, but I'm still saying at the beginning, we indicated.
Because you said this on the
the
record, so I need
criticalness.
to make sure this is clarified on the record. The things you're talking about that are in question, that were recommended are reduction or possible reduction or change of source for the other 50% from the New Year's Eve and Juneteenth, operational savings in PD that came off, increased parking revenue, increased transit fare, which the council had made a decision on, or discretionary funding parking lot items, which we're discussing, and the frequency of the survey, which I think council is okay with that, and vacancy savings. So those are the things.
Those are the things that were pulled from these.
Right, because it's been referenced a couple times that it may have meant something else, but those are the things that are on the table right now. So Councilman Honduras and then McMillan.
I'm unfinished. I wasn't finished.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Okay. So, but I just think that piece, this is from the recommendation based on not us saying that we don't want the increase to fulfill all of these obligations, right?
Right, and that
Okay,
still
so-
isn't balanced yet.
Right, and
So
then
there's still additional, on that list, there's still some things that would come off.
some things that are very critical that we are eliminating and we're decreasing our employee pay, and we're adding things that the council as a whole has not agreed to, and then we want to vote on it as a fork. I would ask that we would take these items, just like Councilwoman Green said about the festival, if we would look at them individually and come to a consensus for that, as opposed to, because there are some things that we agree with and some things we don't, but to clump it together and vote on that as a whole, I don't think is right.
Thank you, sir. Councilman Honduras.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I just want to see on the record, I would support the city getting out of the festival concert business. I think they are quality of life. A lot of them are widely popular. I think the city's role as a partner, as a sponsor, is in-kind services from PD, fire, solid waste, Parks and Rec. But as far as on top of that, giving them cash, and we're talking about a tax increase to do it, I can't support that. And to my colleague's point about going line by line, this is my 4th or 5th budget. We've done that before, but we'd be here a month of Sundays, because every time you put one on, you're going through the whole process every time. This is the more efficient way to do it. If we want to try to do it that way, we should all clear our schedules for the rest of the month.
Well, no, it won't take all that.
It will.
No, it don't
Because
take all
once you
that.
put one on,
Because
it
we already
starts the whole
talked about it.
process
All we
over.
got to do is break it down, like Councilwoman Green said.
We've been there.
McMillan.
Yeah, I have concerns about assuming that everybody has consensus on all of these items. I personally do not have, I'm not in agreement with much of it, and would like to go line by line, at least on the things that there's controversy or disagreement on, and ask that you make space in this process to do that.
All right, so council, it's been color our lights. We've talked about it a number of times for consensus. So I'll ask for consensus motion to, agree conceptually to the things that fit our strategic priorities that were listed. That are listed and we've talked about for the last couple of hours. With the instructions for staff, I think there was about a $600,000 deficit. So it would be to have staff come back with some options to be able to, recommendations to come back on, I guess, when is the?
Let me just make some corrections.
All right.
Set a date
Yeah,
Thursday.
it'd be recommended for staff to come back because we're about $725,000 short when it comes to operationals, but to accept everything that we discussed on the board today, along
got
with
the thing.
finding those 725, and we can recess this meeting, probably have another meeting,
Space out there.
probably whatever you set the date, Mr. Mayor, to try to find those, or see if staff can come back with recommendations to find that $700,000 that we look.
All right, so that's,
Are you
that's-
moving route expansion?
yeah, so,
That's what it's there. But, yeah, we subtracted that already, didn't we?
The 250.
250.
So they've been taking notes. Ms. Tiffany said she didn't need it.
The question was, Mr. Mayor, did you take away out of the 725 that we're short on operation? Did you take away the 250 off of that, and did you take away the what was it at? Yeah, the 250 off of that.
We can do that, Mayor, because I would appreciate the opportunity to tune this up, make sure that we have it straight.
All right. Bring us back.
It's not going to be vastly different, but it may be a little different.
All right, so the
Because
motion.
you don't need it.
All right, so Mayor Pro Tem recommended, or looking for consensus to accept in theory this. We understand that there are adjustments and fine tuning, as Jeff just stated, that would come off, maybe in the amounts, but conceptually, this gives a framework for them to work, but transit and some other options to come off to close that operation gap. Is there a second to that consensus? Second by Andrew. All right. Yes, sir.
Is there or was there a 25 cents across the board increase on transit or not?
No.
Was it?
No, I took that off and I took the police off.
Because I would be in favor to support it.
I think he would
25
come back with
cents, yeah.
options without it, but, you know, this is a lot of math to do on
Yeah.
the fly. So this is just conceptually saying that this gives a framework for him to come back, and right now he's looking at $25,000
I'm ready to vote.
Yes.
Question.
All right. Council, look to you for your consensus on that, show of hand. All right. Those
Those
opposed?
opposed?
All right, so we'll recess to what, next Thursday?
Thursday,
Monday?
10
We got a closed session.
All right, what's good? We're off Monday, right? From the regular meeting, y'all wanna do it Monday?
Monday's Davis.
Monday afternoon.
So what? Thursday's mine. Week 12.
Monday would be good because get the ordinance prepared for 22nd.
What time is everybody available
Yeah,
Monday?
what works at the time? Monday?
After 11 o'clock, I'm clear.
Yeah. All right. You wanna say one or two?
Let me double check. I think I'm looking at
You said one?
I don't look at you today.
Either one. Yeah, let's do
All
one.
right, so we'll recess the meeting to Monday. Before we do that, we have a closed session question. Madam Attorney,
Yes.
it's reference to. Madam Attorney, what's that?
Councilman Ferguson has the motion.
Yeah, I moved to enter closed session to discuss Huskin City.
To discuss what?
And
You know she changed it.
Hurst V City lawsuit.
All right, so the
And
motion by Councilman
MLK.
Ferguson, you go to closed
Oh.
session.
and MLK.
You getting practice.
All right,
It's your turn, right?
okay, is that a second?
Yeah.
All right, second by Councilman Harris, go to closed session. Show of hands. All right.
Those opposed?
Those opposed to closed session.
Okay, thank you. You opposed?
Close session vote.
Did she really vote?
No, she, look, you
Come on
got,
down here and get you some
you
wings.
got,
That's your problem right now. That's your problem.
I never done it.
That's your problem
I
right
do
now.
know
Just turn around.
A lot of,
Come out with his own budget.
Over that table.
Monday at mine.